my op-ed today, my daily take. I've been talking about this on the program for, I guess, arguably for a couple of days, that this, how did it come to be that all of the Iranian leadership was basically in one place? It turns out there were actually three places, but they were basically concentrated in these three places so that with one set of missiles, one major strike, Netanyahu could come in, or we could. It's still not clear to me, or I think to anybody else, whether the Ayatollah was killed by a U.S. missile or by a U.S. missile that was supplied to Israel, or an Israeli missile. I mean, I believe they have their own technology. But was Kushner actually negotiating with them in good faith? I mean, the Omani foreign minister said, we got a deal. The Iranians are going to give you everything you want. They just had to meet in Tehran and basically sign this document. And they were meeting in Tehran, and we killed them. Now, I'm not a person who is mourning the death of Ayatollah Khamenei. The man was a murderous dictator. He was a thug. He used religion as a tool to seduce the people, to paraphrase Thomas Jefferson. But that said, if the United States wants to be credible, we blew this in 1973 when Nixon and Kissinger pretended to negotiate with the Vietnamese. In fact, Kissinger won the Nobel Peace Prize for it. And then as soon as he got the Peace Prize, he started bombing the crap out of Vietnam. More bombs than in 1 month than we had dropped on them in 2 years, cumulative. And then the Vietnamese realized, hey, Kissinger had not been negotiating in good faith. And that just destroyed America's reputation around the world for decades in terms of our ability to negotiate. Nobody took us seriously after that. Well, I think the same thing is happening now. I think Kushner and Witkoff were conspiring, and this is my personal opinion, were conspiring with Netanyahu to get the Iranian leadership to lead them on, let them think that we were going to negotiate something with them, when all along the plan was to kill them and to seize the country and presumably seize its oil. We haven't seen, where this is going to go, and Trump is now saying that he won't rule out boots on the ground. Oh my God! But what say you? What do you think of this theory? Have I gone completely over the edge? It's over at HartmannReport.com. It's titled, "Did Jared Kushner negotiate peace or set a trap for Iran's leadership?" Check it out.
We say fight back!
Well, Trump and Netanyahu's stay-out-of-jail war continues to roll along. Gas prices are spiking. Oil prices are spiking. Food supplies to the Middle East have been cut off. I mean, it's just wild what is going on here. And in the midst of this crazy news environment, how do you get good, clean news? How do you find out what's actually going on? How do you cut past the story and the BS and the spin of the corporate media? And particularly of the conservative media, this right-wing bubble that seems to surround MAGA all across the United States, with media that's owned by billionaires and massive corporations and billionaire families. The way you do it is with Free Speech TV, right here. And we're in a fundraising drive right now, and this is how we stay alive. This is how this program stays on the air. This is how this network stays on the air, is with your help. So please call 877-378-8669 now, or go to freespeech.org/donate. Thanks.
Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. Could your children be drafted to fight in Iran? White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt went on Fox News Sunday and said something that stopped a lot of parents cold. When asked directly whether Trump would reinstate the draft, she didn't say no. She said the president, quote, wisely doesn't remove options off the table, end quote. A draft, she said, quote, is not part of the current plan right now. Right now. That's not a denial, that's a warning. The last time America had a mandatory draft was Vietnam, and more than 58,000 Americans died. Critics immediately lit up social media after her comment. One commentator noted that once the children of congressmen and Ivy League families start getting draft notices, the politics will change overnight. Trump has not ruled out boots on the ground. Every war speech sounds different when you imagine your own child wearing the boots. Trump's war is blowing up our economy. Oil hit $110 a barrel Sunday night. That's 50% higher than before the U.S. and Israel began striking Iran on February 28th. The Strait of Hormuz, through which 1/5 of the world's oil flows every day, has been effectively shut for more than a week. Gas is up 16% since the war started. Diesel is up 22%, natural gas up 17%, and stock futures dropped 1.5% Sunday evening. Investors now expect inflation to hit 4.5% over the next year. That's nearly double what they projected at the start of 2025. Trump called the price spikes a very small price to pay. Right. Tell that to the family filling up the tank or watching their retirement shrink. This is what war costs, and working people in America pay it first. Is Trump losing his biggest bet? Trump built his political brand on one promise. He'd make your life cheaper. That promise is now in serious trouble. The economy shed 92,000 jobs in February when economists expected a gain of 60,000. That's the third time in 5 months that the job market has contracted. His tariffs have produced rising prices and 13 months of manufacturing job losses out of the past 14. Early polling shows only 38% of Americans support the Iran strikes, lower than retrospective support for the Iraq war. The first 100 hours of the war cost an estimated $3.7 billion. Trump told Axios he expects to pick Iran's next leader, while also admitting the worst case, whoever takes over could be just as bad. That's not a strategy. That's a gamble with your money and your kids' lives. Trump threatens Congress unless they suppress the vote. While the country watches oil prices and war news, Trump posted a demand on his Nazi-infested social media site that deserves its own alarm bell. He said he'll refuse to sign any legislation until Republicans pass the Save America Act. What's in it? Mandatory voter ID, proof of citizenship, elimination of almost all mail-in ballots, a ban on transgender athletes, and a ban on gender-affirming care for minors. He's threatening to hold the entire legislative agenda hostage to ram through a bill designed to make it harder for millions of Americans to vote. That isn't governing. It's an attempt to lock in power by locking people out of the ballot box. Trump's own cabinet is buying nuclear bunkers. Here's a story that should chill you to the bone. 2 senior Trump cabinet members have secretly ordered nuclear survival bunkers since the attack on Iran began, according to the Telegraph. The bunker company owner says inquiries have gone up tenfold. One official texted him asking when his bunker would be ready. People running this war are scared enough to buy and private shelters while telling the rest of us not to worry. If the people who started this war are quietly preparing for nuclear fallout, you have to ask what risks they're taking with the rest of us. It appears it's pretty marginal. And that's the way it is Monday, March 9th, 2016. I'm Thom Hartmann.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, top of the brand new week to you, the dark rise of America's monsters. I want to get into that in just a moment. Also, Is this administration getting ready to draft our children to go fight in Iran? Serious question. Interesting legislation. Very, very recently authorizing this. I'll give you the details on that in just a few minutes. Also, Trump's own cabinet is buying nuclear bunkers. 2 of the billionaires in his cabinet have just ordered nuclear bunkers. Seriously. What do these people know that we don't? In the second hour of our program, the footage that blew up Trump's school strike lie. Are we surprised that there are more lies coming out of this administration? Seems like that's all they do. All right, we just learned that ICE was lying to us about this American citizen they murdered down in Texas a year ago, in the early months of the Trump administration. Also, Trump threatens to shut down Congress unless they suppress our vote. And Trump's war is blowing up the economy. We'll get to those 3 stories in the second hour of the program. In the third hour of the program, this is a fascinating one. You see a data center going up in rural America. It might be training the next generation of consumer AI, or maybe it's training a system that just helps select targets in Iran. The point is, you don't know. Nobody's legally required to tell you. They're actively hiding this stuff, and now we just saw an Amazon Web Services data center in the Middle East get blown up by Iran. We thought this was Amazon. Well, it's work they're doing for the government. We'll talk about that in the third hour of the program. I want to start out with my op-ed today, my Hartmann Report Daily Take. It's titled "The Dark Rise of America's Monsters." And I point out that, you know, across Iran and the Caribbean, Trump and his lickspittles are just delighting in the killing of people, as if they were like, you know, expendable scenery, not human beings with loved ones and families. And they're ignoring the death and destruction of their fellow psychopath, Putin, that he rains down on Ukraine every night. India and America invited Iran to send an unarmed ship to the Indian Ocean to participate in military exercises. And Trump and Whiskey Pete decided it'd be fun to blow it out of the water, leaving over 100 sailors miles from shore, desperate for a rescue. And instead of saving them, as international law requires, they just left them to drown. Whiskey Pete called it quiet death. In fact, there was a lot of screaming and sobbing, although the bombers couldn't hear it from 20,000 feet, and Hegseth couldn't hear it in his drunken haze. This is just like the boat that they blew up at the Caribbean, where there was that piece of debris that the 2 guys were hanging on to. And as the illegal, unmarked plane comes back, they thought it was coming to rescue them. They're waving to it, and it blows them into bits of blood and gristle. And then there's Nosferatu, you know, Stephen Miller, talking about how after they bombed the girls' school in Iran, killing 160 children, this is what he had to say. He said, what you're seeing right now is a military under President Trump's leadership that is not fighting politically correct. That isn't fighting with its hands tied behind its back. And Whiskey Pete bragged, no stupid rules of engagement, no nation-building quagmire, no democracy-building exercise, no politically correct wars. Yeah, just blow up 160 little girls. No problem. When he was asked about the 6 American soldiers who were killed because Putin is now helping Iran target Americans in the region, Hegseth's reply was equally disgusting. He said, when a few drones get through or tragic things happen, it's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad. Really? Talking about 160 little girls killed by our military? Because perhaps we were using ChatGPT to target things, and the building that the girls were in is near an Iranian military installation, and some years ago, maybe a decade ago, was used for the military. You know, these AI programs are notorious for out-of-date data. Yeah. Talk about it, it's just to make the president look bad, right? These are the same ghouls who were delighted, who were thrilled when Renee Good got shot in the face and Alex Preddy was shot 10 times in the back. They went on TV, they were giddy, smearing them as domestic terrorists. They've killed dozens of people in their concentration camps around the country. And then there's Russell Vought, you know, the architect of Project 2025, who gleefully oversaw the firing of hundreds of thousands of federal workers, shattering their lives and their families. And he says, quote, We want the bureaucrats to be traumatically affected. When they wake up in the morning, we want them to not want to go to work because they're increasingly viewed as the villains. We want their funding to be shut down. We want to put them in trauma. Right. Trauma. That's what Republicans today love, right? It's their drug of choice. And vote and Musk's massive tax cuts to the federal workforce to pay for their tax break, massive cuts to the federal workforce, laying off people to pay for their massive tax cuts for billionaires. In this case, they laid off thousands of people from the National Weather Service. So this weekend in Michigan, there was a series of tornadoes and people got little to no warning. 3 people are dead, 9 people are in the hospital. No warning. The National Weather Service offices are understaffed now. Of course, they weren't billionaires, so their lives don't matter much, right? Like the millions who lost their health insurance because the big, beautiful bill slashed ACA benefits, or the Medicaid revenue. All that stuff set aside so that we could have another $1 trillion in tax cuts for the morbidly rich. Or the pregnant women across red states who are dying at more than twice the rate of pregnant women in blue states because of these outrageous Republican anti-abortion laws. You know, Trump, Hegseth, Vance, Miller, Leavitt, this whole group of psychopaths think that this stuff makes them seem macho and tough. And apparently about 90% of Republicans agree with them. What it really does is reveal them as psychopaths, as the very human embodiment of evil. If they'd been born in different times or places, they'd be Ted Bundys or Charles Mansons. And their GOP followers would be the good Germans who are saluting and smiling as the boxcars roll by. When those 6 U.S. service members were killed by Iranian retaliation, Trump refused to remove his $50 souvenir hat, available for sale on his website, or even bow his head and shrugged, saying, sadly, there'll likely be more. That's the way it is. Those soldiers are just suckers and losers, after all, according to Trump's worldview. They should have had the good sense of the Trump men to have bone spurs. Or like Grandpa Drumpf, who fled Germany after they kicked him out because he refused to show up for the draft. And then there's War Secretary Hegseth with his Crusader cross and his Diaz Volt tattoos, bragging that we've only just begun putting narco-terrorists at the bottom of the ocean, with no interest about who's actually on the boats. I mean, if this was actually drug interdiction, you'd interdict the drugs. You'd stop the boats. But no, this is killing from the skies. This isn't the language of leaders reluctantly using force as a last resort. This is the rhetoric of psychopaths who see the rest of humanity as disposable, as dots in a video game, as objects whose death is their entertainment, as long as their luxury and power are secure. Elon Musk throws $250 million into the 2024 election, so Trump lets him kill millions of black and brown children around the world by dismantling USAID. When a college Republican chat room devolves into Hitler-loving, black and Hispanic hating rhetoric, it's just Thursday. Just like Musk giving the Nazi salute twice. My dad's Republican Party, Mitt Romney's Republican Party, John McCain's Republican Party, Eisenhower's Republican Party is long dead and gone. And in its place is this cult built on grievance, paranoia, white supremacy, and a love for authoritarian strongmen like Putin and Orban. They delight in death and destruction. They love the language of blood and gore. They are monsters.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
15 minutes past the hour, back with more of the news of the day and your calls in just a moment. And welcome back. Don in Pittsburgh, Kansas. Hey, Don, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom.
Don,
I was
Don,
just some...
the mic brought up?
I'm here. Can you get me?
I'm not hearing Don.
Hello?
Oh, there you are, Don. What's up?
Yeah. I was doing some work on the web this weekend, and, there's a giant $1.1 billion super radar at Al Udeid air base in Qatar. Mm-hmm. Well, the Iranians destroyed it.
Yeah.
Or at least heavily damaged it. That would give them 15 minutes warning of a ballistic missile launch.
Yep.
Now they have 30 seconds. And then there were the 3 THAAD radars that have apparently been either heavily damaged or destroyed. Mm-hmm. Now those can perhaps, they can cannibalize THAAD sites in other parts of the world and bring some there, although they could, lose them the same way again. But, there's 8 THAADs owned by the U.S., 2 by Qatar, and 1 by Saudi Arabia. And, this is a big loss. This is one of the big advantages U.S. military had was it saw things that the other side didn't see. Mm-hmm. And now they have Chinese radar, which is real good, and our radars have been blinded.
Do you know how extensive that is? I mean, I heard the list, but is that like 90% of our radar capability, or their radar capability in the Middle East, or is it like 5%?
The big one is there's 4 of these super radars on Earth. One of them was at Al Udeid. There's one in California, one in Greenland, and one in England. That is completely gone for the Middle East. What's necessary to repair it, I don't know. Obviously, they don't tell me. And
right.
But the 3 THAAD ones, there's a total of 11 THAAD systems. So there's 11. Their mobile radars are on a big truck, and it's it's a $500 million radar.
Right.
And there's a fair amount, or they were totally destroyed. At least one was totally destroyed. Others was maybe heavily damaged. So this is a big problem. They can probably replace those THAAD radars because they're mobile. You put them in a C-17 and you fly it in. There's one in South Korea that the U.S. owns. There's one in Guam that the U.S. owns, 5 in Texas, and 1 roving one. And then there's 3, 2 by Qatar and 1 by Saudi Arabia. Exactly who's got destroyed, I don't know. One of the ones that was destroyed was in Saudi Arabia. It might have been theirs.
How do you know all this stuff, Don?
I read.
Wow.
And I dig in.
Yeah, you must read a lot of military data. That's fascinating.
Well, I've been wondering about this. I'm a retired academic, so it's just like I don't have anything else to do.
So, I'm watching this. I mean, we all are, and it seems like we're getting a lot of happy talk out of the Trump administration, but the situation on the ground is looking more and more perilous. Frankly, I think for the countries in the region. You had this UAE billionaire come out a couple of days ago and just peel the skin off Trump. I mean, just peel the bark off. Just go at, who put you in charge of bringing armies to our region? Given the research that you've been doing, Don, what do you think the military situation is right now, and where is it going?
Well, the military situation in the air had been going pretty well, but this is a big hole in that. As for on the ground, Trump's starting to talk about committing troops on the ground in private conversation. But he wants to do like commandos. He thought that this was going to be a fast deal like Venezuela. You get in, you grab a couple of and the Iranians are tougher.
No.
They live in a tougher neighborhood.
It's a whole different thing. Yeah, Don, Thank you very much. Thanks for the call. In Venezuela, they barely had control of the government, much less the populace. In Iran, everything is locked down. 19 minutes past the hour. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. So Republicans are constantly trying to figure out ways to prevent people from voting. Why? Because they have nothing to offer people other than, bigotry and misogyny and hate and stuff like that. Oh, and tax cuts for billionaires. So in 2020, the early polling down in Texas was showing that Donald Trump was going to lose to Joe Biden. Now, keep in mind, this was also during the pandemic. And so Attorney General Ken Paxton, Republican, now impeached, came up with a bright idea to scare people away from voting in Harris County, exclusively in Houston. 4.7 million people, 2.5 million registered voters. And so he forbade the county from mailing out applications for mail-in ballots, and then went on Steve Bannon's show to brag about how they wanted to send out 2.5 million ballots, and we were able to stop every one of them, thus giving the election to Trump in Texas. It's amazing. There's a whole piece about it over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out.
ocean swallowed sailors, while the bombers turned away. 100 voices crying, but no one came to stay. The smoke rose over schoolyards where the children used to play. And somewhere men in power just laughed and walked away. Oh, the monsters wear the flag now, and they call their cruelty strength. They speak of death like weather, just another mile of wreckage lane. But every tear and broken light is a truth they can't devour. History remembers everything about the monsters who took power. 2 fishermen were waving from the wreckage in the sea. A plane returned in silence where mercy ought to be. Far away a mother held the child she couldn't save, while speeches filled the airway about the courage of the brave. Oh, the monsters wear the flag now, and they call their cruelty strength. They speak of death like weather, just another mile of wreckage lane. But every tear and broken life is a truth they can't devour. History remembers everything about the monsters who took power.
23 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. Carolyn Levitt's stunning admission. Donald Trump has refused to rule out ground troops going into Iran. This has echoes of Vietnam all over it. Timothy Snyder this weekend published a piece saying that, in his opinion, the whole purpose of the Iran attack was to get Iran to attack America so that Trump could have a 9/11 that he could use the same way Hitler used the Reichstag fire to end democracy in America and suspend our elections. And Timothy Snyder is no slouch. I mean, this guy's one of the leading experts on fascism in the world. And so, are we going to have war with Iran? Is that going to be the thing? And if so, are we going to need ground troops? Well, Carolyn Levitt, a reporter, Maria Bartiromo, says mothers out there are worried that we're going to have a draft, that they're going to see the sons and daughters involved in this. And Levitt says, well, it has been and will continue to be. President Trump wisely does not remove options off the table. She goes on to say the president, as commander-in-chief, wants to continue to assess the success of this military operation. Not part of the current plan now, but the president, again, wisely keeps his options on the table. Right. Meanwhile, did you know that recent legislation activated the draft? December 18th, 2025, Donald Trump, this is just what, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, Donald Trump signed the National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, into law. Section 535 requires the Selective Service System to automatically register all male U.S. residents between 18 and 26. Now, it used to be voluntary, right? You'd get this thing in the mail and it would say, you know, sign up for the Selective Service. Under the new law, the Selective Service System must, quote, identify, locate, and register every male person residing in the United States by aggregating data from Social Security, IRS, immigration records, and whatever else the Social Security director says is necessary. The voluntary system has been in place since 1980. So now we're going to have a draft? And now the Selective Service System is going through all of the military databases looking for every young man between 18 and 26 in this country, particularly those who might not have voluntarily registered for the Selective Service for the draft. Now, I've long been an advocate for America having a draft and having alternative service, like they did in Germany when I lived there. The hospital that I worked at, people, young men were there instead of doing their military service. I think it's a good thing. And you got a free college in exchange for it. It's a rite of passage. But not for this. Not for a stupid war against Iran. Not for something that could spiral into World War III. This is nuts. And if you don't believe me, believe the two Trump cabinet officials who are in the process of building nuclear bomb-proof bunkers right now. I'll tell you about that after the break, and I'll pick up your calls. Stay with us.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's the place where despair is not an option. We'll be right back with your calls. And
Hey, it's the final stretch of the Free Speech TV Spring Fund Drive, and this is how we keep this network going. Literally, this is it. This is your opportunity to be part of our family, to be part of this network, and to have the good feeling that you know that you help promote truth, that you help promote democracy, that you help promote a more egalitarian America, that you help seed the ground for a positive future for America rather than the insanity that corporate media and the right-wing billionaires are bringing in. So please call now, 877-378-8669, or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. There's never been a more important time. This is the last week, right? It's just a 2-week fund drive, and this is the first day of the second week. We're coming toward the end here. Please call now, or go to freespeech.org and make your contribution. Thanks. Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. Could your children be drafted to fight in Iran? White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt went on Fox News Sunday and said something that stopped a lot of parents cold. When asked directly whether Trump would reinstate the draft, she didn't say no. She said the president, quote, wisely doesn't remove options off the table, end quote. A draft, she said, quote, is not part of the current plan right now. Right now. That's not a denial, that's a warning. The last time America had a mandatory draft was Vietnam, and more than 58,000 Americans died. Critics immediately lit up social media after her comment. One commentator noted that once the children of congressmen and Ivy League families start getting draft notices, the politics will change overnight. Trump has not ruled out boots on the ground. Every war speech sounds different when you imagine your own child wearing the boots. Trump's war is blowing up our economy. Oil hit $110 a barrel Sunday night. That's 50% higher than before the U.S. and Israel began striking Iran on February 28th. The Strait of Hormuz, through which 1/5 of the world's oil flows every day, has been effectively shut for more than a week. Gas is up 16% since the war started. Diesel is up 22%, natural gas up 17%, and stock futures dropped 1.5% Sunday evening. Investors now expect inflation to hit 4.5% over the next year. That's nearly double what they projected at the start of 2025. Trump called the price spikes a very small price to pay. Right. Tell that to the family filling up the tank or watching their retirement shrink. This is what war costs, and working people in America pay it first. Is Trump losing his biggest bet? Trump built his political brand on one promise. He'd make your life cheaper. That promise is now in serious trouble. The economy shed 92,000 jobs in February when economists expected a gain of 60,000. That's the third time in 5 months that the job market has contracted. His tariffs have produced rising prices and 13 months of manufacturing job losses out of the past 14. Early polling shows only 38% of Americans support the Iran strikes, lower than retrospective support for the Iraq War. The first 100 hours of the war cost an estimated $3.7 billion. Trump told Axios he expects to pick Iran's next leader, while also admitting the worst case, whoever takes over could be just as bad. That's not a strategy. That's a gamble with your money and your kids' lives. Trump threatens Congress unless they suppress the vote. While the country watches oil prices and war news, Trump posted a demand on his Nazi-infested social media site that deserves its own alarm bell. He said he'll refuse to sign any legislation until Republicans pass the Save America Act. What's in it? Mandatory voter ID, proof of citizenship, elimination of almost all mail-in ballots, a ban on transgender athletes, and a ban on gender-affirming care for minors. He's threatening to hold the entire legislative agenda hostage to ram through a bill designed to make it harder for millions of Americans to vote. That isn't governing. It's an attempt to lock in power by locking people out of the ballot box. Trump's own cabinet is buying nuclear bunkers. Here's a story that should chill you to the bone. 2 senior Trump cabinet members have secretly ordered nuclear survival bunkers since the attack on Iran began, according to the Telegraph. The bunker company owner says inquiries have gone up tenfold. One official texted him asking when his bunker would be ready. People running this war are scared enough to buy and private shelters while telling the rest of us not to worry. If the people who started this war are quietly preparing for nuclear fallout, you have to ask what risks they're taking with the rest of us. It appears it's pretty marginal. And that's the way it is Monday, March 9th, 2016. I'm Thom Hartmann.
Did you know that every weekday we send out an email before the show giving you all the topics coming up so you can be fully informed and ready to interact with our program? Or that after the show we send out Sue's Stack, a list of every topic I've discussed along with clickable hot links to every source of information I've shared with you on the air? It's all completely free and available over at thom.tv, THOM.tv. Check it out. Welcome back, 34 minutes past the hour. So this is wild. This guy, his name is Ron Hubbard, not L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology, but just Ron Hubbard. And he's a businessman in Texas who builds nuclear bunkers for rich people. You know, Mark Zuckerberg apparently has one, you know, from reports I've read. And you know, this is the latest thing that billionaires have is nuclear safe bunkers. You know, we're little underground cities where, you know, them and a couple of families can live so they can repopulate the earth after the apocalypse. Well, apparently, his company's called Atlas, the company that manufactures these things. They survive biological, nuclear, and EMP. He says his inquiries have gone up tenfold since Trump and Netanyahu attacked Iran. And he says one of the 2 senior Trump administration cabinet members, this is what he said, he, quote, "One of them texted me yesterday asking, when will my bunker be ready?" Yeah. Cabinet officials? Isn't Hegseth a cabinet official? Holy cow. News outlets have also increased their coverage of the possibility of all-out nuclear war. The New York Post on Sunday, yesterday, published a report about which foods might protect you from radiation exposure. AOL.com recently published this list of the 10 safest countries to survive nuclear war. Hubbard, the guy who builds these bunkers, said that virtually all of his customers are Christian conservative CEOs, and several of them are the wealthiest men on the planet. Andrew Day, senior editor at the American Conservative, said, why are senior Trump officials urgently ordering Armageddon-proof bunkers for themselves just since the day the war in Iran began? Well, I think, Andrew, the question kind of answers itself, doesn't it? All right, what's on your mind today? John in Portland. Hey, John, what's up?
Hey, I know Trump's end game. He wants to control the world oil market. And I know because I grew up with kids like him. I graduated high school a year after he did. And I remember, first of all, if you told them to do something, they would say, who's going to make me? If they wanted something, they'd say, who's going to stop me? Mm-hmm. And he's now, and I remember they would also say, Iran, Middle East has the oil, we have the guns, we should go take the oil. Now, that was 40 years ago. Now he's beyond that. He's a megalomaniac. Mm-hmm. He wants to actually control the world oil market. That's why he needs Putin. He needs Venezuela. He needs Israel to militarize the Middle East. And he wants to occupy those oil fields and the tanker traffic.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's his end game. And who's going to stop him? That's the question.
Yeah.
Congress can cut off funds. I don't know. Can they? What's that going to do?
They can. They won't, because Congress is controlled by lick-spittle Republicans right now, by these pathetic, spineless cowards and goose-stepping Nazis in the GOP who think that what Trump is doing is just fine. And even if they don't think what Trump is doing is just fine, they're too scared to come out from underneath their desks. You know, like Mark Wayne Mullen, when January 6th was happening, hiding under a chair in the Senate gallery, while several other senators were. Or members of Congress were, at the doors trying to keep the people out. Mark Wayne Mullen was hiding. This MMA fighter, he's a tough guy. Yeah, right. John, thank you for the call. Spot on. Glenn in Bethesda, Maryland. Hey, Glenn, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Just want to say really quick that I think the conversation around all this has become somewhat psychotic. It's not about Trump. Trump, since the days of Roy Cohn, was set up as a distraction. And we keep talking each day about what he does, like the little discussion that he wore the white Chinese-made baseball cap at the dignified transfer. A one-day story, we could point to him. What's going on is behind that. It's just a corporate fascist coup. Basically, they're going to cull the population. And I have one question for everybody listening and for you. How is it that in the executive branch, which is defined as executing the laws of the land, we even got to a point where a criminal, a 34-count felon, is in charge of the branch that executes the laws of the land while he's been violating the Emoluments Clause since his first term?
Oh, you asked how did we get here? We got here because you've got right-wing billionaires like the Murdoch family and now the Ellison family who are just fine with that. And you've got Putin doing everything he can to put Trump into power, along with Elon Musk.
Right. So why do we keep going around? Most people don't know who Roy Cohn is and his role in this. That's an odd thing. And one other thing I'll say here is this. I've spoken to a lot of people. Most people do not understand. If you ask them the significance of the year 1953, if you ask them what Savak is, if you ask who started the Iran-Iraq war, they have no idea that we have been torturing Iran since 1953. Israel is just a British imperial project when they were forced out of the Middle East after World War II. They passed the baton of empire on to us. And all Israel is really, other than a European genocide survivor place, put into a place that they hadn't been for 2,000 years, Israel is just a military base for the American empire, an old British imperial project.
I think you could have argued that back in the 50s. I'm not sure that that's the case. I don't think that that's the case anymore. I think Israel has become an independent actor, and Netanyahu is one of the grand war criminals on the international stage right now.
So then why hasn't he been arrested? Why? Because the media won't focus and say,
why hasn't Trump been arrested?
It's all corporate media, Tom. We can keep talking about how evil. We all know that Trump is bad. It isn't that. It's how he got into this spot.
No, I get it. And as I said, this is Netanyahu and the right-wing billionaires. Thanks for your call, Glenn. Mike in Gainesville, Virginia. Hey, Mike, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Yeah, I wouldn't get. I wish the news media would not accept Hegseth's statement that we're investigating the bombing of the girls' school in Iran. It takes 5 minutes to do the three.
There's video.
Well, no,
I mean,
no,
there's
no,
video of the Tomahawk missile coming out of the sky, blowing these little girls up. We're the only ones who have Tomahawk missiles. This is not rocket science, Mike.
If there is video, okay, but if it wasn't video, it takes 5 minutes to do the search to see if it was targeted.
Oh yeah. Sure, we know where every missile we've ever fired hit. Yes, you're absolutely right.
Right. If the targeteer put aim points on that building, and if we did a bomb damage assessment.
Yeah, which we always do.
It takes 5 minutes. Yes, we do. So Hegseth saying we were doing an investigation makes no sense whatsoever.
No, he's lying through his teeth, as everybody in this administration constantly does, it seems.
Absolutely. So the news media has to get on him for that. The missile that's going to Turkey, again, an easy way to prove it is basically, was it 90 degrees azimuth off of Tel Aviv? Or was it going towards a U.S. base? Again, a 1 minute search to get that answer.
Yeah.
And another point, I want to clarify on THAAD radar, okay? THAAD has 2 radars. They have a search battle management radar, and they have a fire control radar. The fire control radar is absolutely essential to be able to get the missile on target. We're not losing any early warning by not having the battle management radar, okay? It's not needed.
Right.
We have a lot of other options to be able to track any missile. And I don't understand why you would use a THAAD missile, which is for high-altitude air defense, against a missile coming just across the Gulf. It doesn't even get high enough.
Basically, because that's all you've got. I mean, you've got Zelensky now offering to send his drone experts over to the Middle East because he's developed a drone technology, where one drone takes out another drone. You know, one $50,000 drone takes out another $50,000 drone instead of using a $5 million, $15 million missile to take out a $50,000 drone.
It's always been the case. Israel came up with that in the 90s, that a drone can always take out another drone much more effectively than a missile.
Yeah, but we're not doing
it. A much lower cost.
I mean, our military is way behind.
I don't know why we didn't build them.
We're not building them because the defense contractors don't think they can make enough profit on it, and so they grease the palms of politicians to buy big projects that are far more profitable and easier to do.
You can basically have 1 million, P-51 Mustang models, which would be the absolutely perfect interceptor.
Yeah. No, I get it. Mike, thanks a lot for the call. 44 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just a minute. It's the Thom Hartmann Program, the place where smart people get their news. Stay with us.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's your media support group for We the People. I'll be right back with your calls. And welcome back. Tyrone in Harlem, New York. Hey, Tyrone, what's up?
Hey, Tom, thanks for taking my call. More and more, I don't see us course correcting without some major violence taking place in this country. We already seen his Trump supporters attack the Capitol because they said that he won, and they did not mind killing or being killed to be able to do this. Our issue is, as Democratic supporters and the ones that trying to do this thing in a more civilized way, it's going up against a group of people, a group of individuals, and there may be a small amount of people, but they loud and they violent, and they don't mind breaking up something and causing violence to be able to get what they want. When we go against these people, we're trying to deal with them within reason. But there's some people you can't. You're not going to get through to them unless, like a bully, that's going to take your lunch money every day until you stand up to them. And we're trying to do this in a more civilized way, but I don't see how we get past this without us actually getting involved in a serious confrontation with other Americans. I think Lincoln was trying to do that. Lincoln was trying to get through not having a civil war. And I mean, these people, they don't set up their own army with the Civil War. They set up their own. They had their own election. They attacked other things before Sumter. It was a buildup of a whole bunch of things. I'm concerned how far down this rabbit hole we're gonna go before we recognize that we're gonna have to we're gonna have to get ugly.
Yeah. Because
we're trying to do it civilized, but you're trying to talk to somebody that they're not hearing you. They're not hearing anything we saying. They already see the mess that this man is creating throughout this country. I'm in a gas station now. Sitting in the gas station now, 339, and I'm like, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Yep. It can only get worse.
Yeah,
that's the way I see it.
I agree, Tyrone, and I think that Trump has badly miscalculated on this, and it is going to get worse. Tyrone, thank you for the call. Sue in Belmont, Michigan. Hey, Sue, what's up?
I want to talk about this war, and then when you were talking about the bunkers, I thought, oh, they've got something in mind. Mm-hmm. And I think back of all the crazy things that have happened, including what's happening now. I don't know if you were young enough, or if you remember the Cuban Missile Crisis.
I remember it vividly.
Okay, I was reading something about a Russian who put an end to that. Otherwise, we'd all be gone.
Mm-hmm.
Because he remembered going through radiation sickness and stuff, and he said, I'm not going to do this. So it was God's grace that did that. Now, the other thing is, Bernie says, and you quote him, now is not the time to despair. What would he say we should do to put an end to all this craziness going on?
Yeah.
Is it Putin's fault? Is it Zelensky's fault? And I know Trump is already at fault, but I think he's...
We need to be reaching out to our elected representatives, especially our Republicans, and telling them to grow a spine and start defending this country rather than that felon rapist in the White House. That's what we need to be doing. Sue, thank you for the call. 49 minutes past the hour. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. So a lot of people are wondering, why is it in America that we can't have nice things? Why don't we have, the same things every other democracy has? Every other democracy in the world has a national health care system of some form, and everybody is covered. We don't. We've got 27 million uninsured people and over 100 million underinsured people. Why is that? Why is it that every other country in the world offers college education very inexpensively, if not for free, and for here you go to debt? Why is it that we've got our public schools crumbling and other countries are doing well? Why is it that we've got Medicare being taken apart by this Medicare Advantage scam and nobody will do anything about it? Well, it turns out the reason why it boils down to one thing, one Supreme Court decision, Citizens United, legalizing the bribery of our politicians. There's a whole rant about this over at HartmannReport.com. I think you're going to find it very, very useful. Check it out. Welcome back. 10 minutes before the hour. Picking up your calls here. Paul in Tonasket, Washington. Hey, Paul, what's up?
About a month ago, I asked a very simple question on AI, and that is, don't the billionaires realize their greed is destroying this economy, and what do they intend to do about it? The answer is yes, they know, and the answer is also they're building bunkers. What I ran into, there's an outfit called ARIE, A-E-R-I-E. They're building big 650-person bunkers in each of the 50 states. The first one is supposed to open later this year in Virginia. And apparently they had a great controversy when Trump started this war because the billionaires that bought into it were very upset that Trump brought the end of the world that much closer. A space in these bunkers cost about $20 million per person for their cheap residences, which are 2,000 square feet, and there's no stated price on the big ones, which are 20,000 square feet.
Right.
And these things are supposed to support people buried underground for about 40 years before they come out. So
how do they power them, Paul?
Huh?
How do they power them? Are they putting little nuclear reactors in them or something? I mean,
that seems to be what they're doing. They're having cameras so they can see outside the bunkers, and
but they've got to get electricity
they can
from somewhere.
get scenes from elsewhere around the world.
Right. But they've got to have electricity. They've got to have a source of electricity.
They have electricity. They have apparently they're doing deep wells underneath the bunkers. A lot of planning has gone into this stuff for quite a bit. But I gather there have been holes built for another 2 or 3 bunkers.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's an amazing thing. It's just amazing, Paul, that members of Donald Trump's cabinet are building Armageddon-proof bunkers right now while he's attacking Iran, something no president has ever been stupid enough to do. Netanyahu's been trying to get American presidents to attack Iran for 40 years. No American president has ever been this stupid, but we've got a guy in the White House who is severely mentally challenged. He does not have the ability to think long term. He's just a grifter and a hustler and a dummy. Paul, thanks for the call. Charles in Miami. Hey, Charles, what's on your mind today? Charles, you are on the air.
Oh, hello?
Hey.
Hello, Tom?
Yeah.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, man. My thing is this, basically. This guy is a draft dodger, and we've been here before. We've been here before since the Iraq War, and we know this playbook. So how do we circumvent what I see is coming down the road? I mean, like, how do we stop this? Because as far as I'm concerned, our leadership has let us down.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if the leadership is compromised thinking, because if they put a monkey wrench in it, that, somehow or another we'll stop supporting Israel, which I still think Israel is an American base. I agree with that guy. It's an American outpost, and it's the only one that they have in the Middle East to control whatever they want to control. But
well, in some ways, you could argue, Charles, that America has become an Israeli outpost. We're doing their fighting for them.
There you go.
We're paying for their national health care system. We're paying for their bombs. We're supplying them with their military. Who's the dog and who's the tail here?
Well, the thing is, what's bothering me is we have 7 servicemen that's already died.
Yeah.
I come from a military family, and trust me, I feel for those people. I might even know them indirectly because, we all know each other. One way or another, we all know each other in this country.
Yeah.
And for him to even come out and try to attack Starmer, when you had Rubio a couple weeks ago in what it was at the summit in Davos, saying that they want a new world order and basically Europe is on its own. And then a couple weeks, I think before that, Trump actually insulted some of these UK soldiers, saying that they didn't help or they didn't do enough in Afghanistan. I mean, I just think he's out of his mind attacking Starmer. And I don't blame Starmer for not wanting to put anything on it. As far as I'm concerned, this morning on the BBC, they was calling it the U.S.-Israel war.
Which is what it is.
Into it. And I'm sorry?
It's what it is. I mean, Israel's been trying to get this war going for 40 years. Or for 30 years anyway. And finally they found a president who was stupid enough to do it.
Right, and they're begging Europe and other countries, other allies, to get in this war. Right. So we need to stop this. I don't care if we got a strike. I don't care what it takes. We, as American people, we've been through this before. We don't want to go through this nightmare.
Yeah. So call your members of Congress. Congress can stop this war tomorrow, Charles. So call your members of Congress.
Well, we got to push them.
Yeah, that's what we got to do. Charles, thanks for the call. Dave in Federal Way, Washington. Hey, Dave, what's up?
Hey, not too look, I know why all these bunkers are being built is because we're on the brink of a runaway force escalation event. All right. And they all know. They all know.
Yeah.
And look, there's all this analysis of, what is Trump's 7-level chess? What's he up to? Look, there is no 7-level chess.
No,
right?
he thought he'd have a fast little war, just like Bush thought he'd do in Iraq.
Well, these are old plans. Jack Straw infamously or famously, whatever, said we've been at war with Iran since 1974. Look, here's the deal: is the draft is entirely possible if Trump's telling the truth and he wants to finish this, this Iran threat for good. And I'll tell you why, because. And you brought it up, and a lot of conservatives are bringing it up. They're trying to do the missile math. They're trying to figure out how is it that Iran can still fly all these drones. We have one brigade combat action team always on standby. That is not enough. What is a brigade combat action team? What could they do? They could stop Iran from accessing their missiles. They could stymie the IRGC. But long term, I think Mohammed bin Nayef, the Prince of UAE, he's going to talk Trump into deploying some sort of ICE-type contract force in there. And then Russia, Turkey, Pakistan, they're just going to make mincemeat out of them.
I think you're right, Dave. Thank you. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
You know, Richard Nixon and Spiro Agnew both took cash bribes while they were in the White House. Since then, the Supreme Court, or at least 5 Republicans on the Supreme Court, made it a lot easier for politicians to take bribes with their Citizens United decision, which basically legalized political bribery as long as it's done through campaigns or PACs or super PACs. But for some people, there's just never enough money, right? Donald Trump has been running small-time hustles to make money for decades, selling sneakers, Bibles, steaks, vodka, water. But now he's hit the big time. He's got these fungible tokens, right? These fungible crypto assets, which are basically just digital pictures of Donald Trump that say fight, fight, fight. And he has turned them into an $8 billion machine. His wife is in on this too, with his Trump coin. It's a new way that foreign powers and billionaires in the United States can just shovel money into Donald Trump's pocket. There's a whole article about it over at HartmannReport.com titled Presidential Payola, the Evolution of Political Bribery. Check it out.
It's your last chance, the last week, the second week. But we only run these for 2 weeks, these fund drives for Free Speech TV, where you have the opportunity to gain the blessing, to gain the good feeling, to gain the, yes, I'm part of something that's big and strong and doing great and important work here in America to preserve democracy, to move America actually forward rather than back. This Free Speech TV, this network is doing extraordinary work, and it's really worthy of your support. I mean, there's a lot of great charities out there. I used to run one of them. There's a bunch of great organizations, but this is stuff that is all about the future. This is how we build a future that's appropriate, that works for our kids. That's not a future of death and destruction like Trump and Hegg said. Free Speech TV. It's right here. It's right now, and it needs your help. Freespeech.org.
or 877-378-8669. Thank you.
Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. Could your children be drafted to fight in Iran? White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt went on Fox News Sunday and said something that stopped a lot of parents cold. When asked directly whether Trump would reinstate the draft, she didn't say no. She said the president, quote, wisely doesn't remove options off the table, end quote. A draft, she said, quote, is not part of the current plan right now. Right now. That's not a denial, that's a warning. The last time America had a mandatory draft was Vietnam, and more than 58,000 Americans died. Critics immediately lit up social media after her comment. One commentator noted that once the children of congressmen and Ivy League families start getting draft notices, the politics will change overnight. Trump has not ruled out boots on the ground. Every war speech sounds different when you imagine your own child wearing the boots. Trump's war is blowing up our economy. Oil hit $110 a barrel Sunday night. That's 50% higher than before the U.S. and Israel began striking Iran on February 28th. The Strait of Hormuz, through which 1/5 of the world's oil flows every day, has been effectively shut for more than a week. Gas is up 16% since the war started. Diesel is up 22%, natural gas up 17%, and stock futures dropped 1.5% Sunday evening. Investors now expect inflation to hit 4.5% over the next year. That's nearly double what they projected at the start of 2025. Trump called the price spikes a very small price to pay. Right. Tell that to the family filling up the tank or watching their retirement shrink. This is what war costs, and working people in America pay it first. Is Trump losing his biggest bet? Trump built his political brand on one promise. He'd make your life cheaper. That promise is now in serious trouble. The economy shed 92,000 jobs in February when economists expected a gain of 60,000. That's the third time in 5 months that the job market has contracted. His tariffs have produced rising prices and 13 months of manufacturing job losses out of the past 14. Early polling shows only 38% of Americans support the Iran strikes, lower than retrospective support for the Iraq war. The first 100 hours of the war cost an estimated $3.7 billion. Trump told Axios he expects to pick Iran's next leader, while also admitting the worst case, whoever takes over could be just as bad. That's not a strategy. That's a gamble with your money and your kids' lives. Trump threatens Congress unless they suppress the vote. While the country watches oil prices and war news, Trump posted a demand on his Nazi-infested social media site that deserves its own alarm bell. He said he'll refuse to sign any legislation until Republicans pass the Save America Act. What's in it? Mandatory voter ID, proof of citizenship, elimination of almost all mail-in ballots, a ban on transgender athletes, and a ban on gender-affirming care for minors. He's threatening to hold the entire legislative agenda hostage to ram through a bill designed to make it harder for millions of Americans to vote. That isn't governing. It's an attempt to lock in power by locking people out of the ballot box. Trump's own cabinet is buying nuclear bunkers. Here's a story that should chill you to the bone. 2 senior Trump cabinet members have secretly ordered nuclear survival bunkers since the attack on Iran began, according to the Telegraph. The bunker company owner says inquiries have gone up tenfold. One official texted him asking when his bunker would be ready. People running this war are scared enough to buy and private shelters while telling the rest of us not to worry. If the people who started this war are quietly preparing for nuclear fallout, you have to ask what risks they're taking with the rest of us. It appears it's pretty marginal. And that's the way it is Monday, March 9th, 2016. I'm Thom Hartmann.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to the second hour of our program. So the investigation into the Iranian girls' school, well, let me rephrase that. Pete Hegseth says he's going to launch an investigation into this bombing of this Iranian girls' school that killed 160 children and another dozen or so adults in Minab, Iran. But Trevor Ball, who's a Bellingcat researcher and a weapons analyst, the Mehr news agency, an Iranian news agency, actually got video of the strike. And, actually, it was of the strike of the building next door to it that also got hit. There were apparently 2 missiles that came down, one on the building next door and the one on the girls' school. And the building next door was part of the IRGC, the Iranian military, but the girls' school clearly was not. It had been 10 years ago, but it wasn't now, which raises the question, are we using ChatGPT to target our strikes in Iran? And the answer appears to be yes. Whether it's ChatGPT or whether it's Claude or some other program. Now, this is what Anthropic got into a big battle with the Pentagon over, to the point that Anthropic, which owns Claude, actually got banned from military contracts, which is a big hit to an AI company. And apparently, ChatGPT was like, "Oh, hey, we're happy." Anthropic's line in the sand was 2 things. We will not let you use our AI for mass surveillance, and we are not going to let you use our AI for autonomous weapons. In other words, where we're killing people rather than you're killing people. And the Trump administration was like, "Well, if you won't let us do that, then screw you. We'll go with with our good buddies over at ChatGPT, who are more than happy to do it." And over 1 million people have left ChatGPT in the last week because of this, and moved over to Claude and other programs like it. There's also Perplexity. Those are the big 3 basically right now. But the video's there. This girls' school was killed, was blown up. These children were killed by a U.S. Tomahawk missile, manufactured right here in the United States. And Senate Democrats are now demanding an actual hearing on this. And Senate Republicans are finding themselves in kind of a weird spot, because there's a lot of conservative writers who are saying, wait a minute, this is a violation of international law. This is bad targeting at the very least. Now, Donald Trump comes out and says, "Oh, it was done by Iran." And Hegseth says, "Well, we're looking into it." Well, they know. They knew within seconds of the time that missile hit exactly what it had hit. It's not like our military just fires Tomahawk missiles and then goes, a couple of months we'll figure out who it hit. They know instantly. There are the after-action reports. There are the bomb threat analysis, or whatever they call them, bomb destruction analysis. I mean, they know. They know what's going on, and there's video of it. Like I said, there's video of those Tomahawk missiles coming in. So how long are we going to be able to lie about it? Well, apparently a long, long time. And the Trump administration is founded on lies. It's based on the lie of 2020, of the election being stolen from Donald Trump. It's based on the lie that black immigrants were eating dogs and cats in Springfield, Ohio. It's based on the lie that black and brown people are inferior to white people. It's based on the lie that women are inferior to men and shouldn't be allowed to vote. Thus, we need the SAVE Act to prevent all these married women from voting. I mean, the entire Trump movement is based on a lie. The whole QAnon conspiracy thing. This is just so wrong. And now you've got Trump, speaking of women not voting, Trump coming out and saying, well, this is what he posted on his Nazi-infested social media site yesterday. On Sunday, he said, "Must go to the front of the line. I, as president, will not sign other bills until this is passed." Now, he's talking about the SAVE Act, which the Save America Act is now called, which is a voter suppression bill. And there was this guy, Scott Pressler, who was on Fox and Friends talking about how wonderful it is. Yes, we need this. You know, you've got this big problem with, you know, according to the Heritage Foundation, in the last 30 years, roughly, we've had 22 people who are not citizens vote in the United States. Holy cow, 22 nationwide out of billions of votes cast? That's a real crisis, right? So Scott Pressler was on Fox and Friends pathetically trying to make, you know, oh my God, you know, we need the SAVE Act. And so Trump goes on going, he goes, great job by hardworking Scott Pressler and Fox and Friends talking about using the filibuster or talking filibuster in order to pass the Save America Act, an 88% issue with all voters. It must be done immediately. He's lying through his teeth, as usual. I mean, you know, if Trump is speaking or writing, he's lying more often than not. And then he goes on with this panicked plea. He says, this bill supersedes everything else. It must go to the front of the line. I, as president, will not sign other bills until this is passed. And not the watered-down version. Go for the gold. Must show voter ID, proof of citizenship, no mail-in ballots except for military illness, disability travel, no men and women's sports, no transgender mutilation of children. Do not fail President Donald J. Trump. Yeah. What Trump apparently doesn't know is that if he doesn't sign a bill in 2 weeks, well, less than 2 weeks, actually, it's 10 days, it becomes law anyway. The only thing that would interrupt that is if Congress adjourns. If Congress adjourns, then the bill dies. But if Congress stays in session for 10 days after they deliver a bill to the White House, it becomes law whether Trump signs it or not. But he's like, oh, you know, I'm going to threaten you guys. I'm not going to sign. Grandpa sundowning, right? Grandpa crazy pants. Meanwhile, oil prices are exploding. Brent crude went above $100 a barrel for the first time in roughly 4 years, basically since the pandemic. It's more than 40% more expensive than it was before Israel and the United States began attacking Iran. In Asia, this is contagious now. Well, Asia is particularly vulnerable because an awful lot of the oil that supplies South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, China, comes out of the Straits of Hormuz, comes from, you know, the Gulf countries. And so the South Korea's Kospi index is down 6%. The Nikkei 225, the Japanese index, is down 5.2%. Oil hit $119.50 a barrel over the weekend. Now, that was a peak. It settled back down a little bit, but Trump said this is short term, and I quote, a very small price to pay for the USA and world safety and peace. Yeah, bomb for peace? That's like, you know, screwing for virginity. I mean, I don't get this. But, well, I suppose you could have made a case in World War II, but this, the New York Times reports this huge jump in oil prices suggests that traders are increasingly worried about being able to access oil and natural gas from the Gulf. You think? And not only does 20% of the world's oil, 1/5 of the world's oil, go through the Straits of Hormuz, but all of those countries in that region, you know, Qatar and UAE and Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, they get their food through the Straits of Hormuz. They get their, you know, their Amazon junk. I mean, it may not be Amazon in the Middle East, but you know what I'm talking about. Basically, you know, furniture and electronic goods and computers and everything else all comes in on cargo ships. Now, cargo ships only represent 3% of the traffic, but that's not because there's not a lot of cargo ships. That's because there's a hell of a lot of tankers and fertilizer boats. And, you know, prices at the pump here now. So fertilizer, food, I mean, we're looking at serious, I mean, fertilizer allows poor countries to grow food. That's been choked off. And food coming into the region, this is going to get wild. Iran can grow an awful lot of its own food. I don't think Qatar and Bahrain can, and the UAE. Diesel prices are up around 22%. We got a national average gas price of $3.45 a pump. Natural gas is exploding, particularly in Europe and Asia. Trump says the U.S. Navy could escort tankers through the Gulf, or through the Straits of Hormuz. But then the Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, the former fossil fuel lobbyist, says, no, we're going to actually focus on getting rid of Iran's military capability. Right. And then you got the Fed. The Fed is worried about inflation. And this war is driving inflation. You raise the price of oil, you raise the price of everything. Everything that gets transported in America by truck, by car, by plane. You're going to see airplane prices going, airline fares, prices going up. It's just everything that was stable is now unstable. Everything that was cheap is going to be expensive. Even government bond yields are going up, 0.2% on the 2-year Treasury, up to 3.656%. That's going to translate into higher credit card costs, higher car purchase, time purchase agreements, car credit stuff, and more expensive mortgages. And this is also that, because Benjamin Netanyahu apparently, desperate to have a little war so that he can get reelected as prime minister, finally found an American president stupid enough to say, oh yeah, bombing Iran, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, even Bush wasn't that stupid. Nixon wasn't that stupid. Reagan wasn't that stupid. We've all gotten so used to living in a
This is the
country
Thom Hartmann Program.
But Trump, he's definitely that stupid. So what say you? I'll pick up your calls after the break. We'll be right back. St. Jude's is a wonderful charity, but we're the only developed country. And welcome back. John in Chicago. Hey, John, thanks for watching us on Substack. What's up?
Hello?
Hey, John, you're on the air.
Oh, my goodness. I'm calling because of that SAVE Act. You've said quite a bit about it already, but can we beg for your help and other radio programs throughout the United States to get this bill advertised so that people like my wife, who didn't initially change her name to my last name, so that we could get more people to pay attention to the need to get their wives registered to vote because of all the hoopla, all the rules and regs that the SAVE Act is creating.
Yeah.
We just got to make sure that everybody that can vote against Trump gets a chance to vote.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to remember, John, this is how Orban and Putin win elections, is by preventing people from voting that they know are going to vote against them, making it hard to vote. And Trump is just picking up their playbook. I mean, this is authoritarianism 101.
Yeah. But we've got to we've got to come up with democracy 101. The tricks of the trade on the democracy side, so that when we come up against idiots like and thieves like Trump, we're ready, and we're working our tails off until the elections in the fall, and have tons of people ready to vote and say thumb their nose at Steve Bannon and all the rest of those folks.
Yeah, I'm with you. And the Republicans are looking at an electoral wipeout, and this war in Iran is not helping. Trump thought that he would have this rally around the flag effect. What he didn't realize, he probably wasn't paying attention, is that when George W. Bush took us to war, he convinced the Congress, he convinced the United Nations, he convinced the mainstream press. Trump did none of the above, and so he's standing out here all alone. John, I got to move along, but thanks for the call. Excellent point. Michael in San Carlos, California. Hey, Michael, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Just wanted to talk to you about something that I think has kind of flown over the radar of many of the news organizations. Last week, Whiskey Pete bragged about a U.S. submarine torpedoing an Iranian frigate, the Iris Dena.
Yeah.
And the result of which they had 87 dead, Pete proudly stated that this was the first time the U.S. submarine had torpedoed an enemy vessel since World War II. The surprising news, no frontline news agency is reporting that there was no reported rescue effort by the U.S. Navy for the survivors of this U.S.-led attack.
Yeah.
The Sri Lankan Navy and Air Force responded, reporting the rescue of 32 sailors along with the recovery of the bodies. But this is a clear violation of the Geneva Convention.
Oh, I know. I reported on this, Michael, just an hour ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just picked up and I just was.
No, but you're absolutely right. This is a war crime of epic proportion. Not only that, the ship was unarmed. And not only that, it was engaging in a military exercise that the United States and India invited it to participate in. But it was completely unarmed. So, yeah, Whiskey Pete, tough guy. Let's blow an unarmed ship out of the water, and then when the sailors are in the water begging to be rescued, let's just leave. This is a sick and twisted administration. Michael, thank you for the call. Spot on. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. So every time we have an election, I mean, most recently we saw this in 2022, Putin and Mohammed bin Salman, Russia and Saudi Arabia, start raising the price of oil, basically to stick it to the Democrats, hoping that they can lose power. I mean, it worked in 2022. They got their majority in the House of Representatives. And you'll recall all those $6 gasoline and $5 gasoline, and everybody squealing about it, and the little stickers they were putting on pumps with pictures of Joe Biden saying, I did this. Well, they're preparing to do it again. They've cut production, Saudi Arabia and Russia, and it's going to get a whole lot worse over the course of the next year as we're heading toward 2024. So what can we do about this? Well, I have a very specific proposal, and by the way, 70 different environmental groups have joined in this, along with Senator Ed Markey and several members of Congress, and that is to ban the export of American-produced crude oil. Make America energy independent, and we control the price. There's a piece about it over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out. 23 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. Picking up your calls here. Marty in Wixom, Michigan. Hey, Marty, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. On that subject of oil prices, I just wanted to make a point about one of the economic impacts of this Iran war that I've not seen mentioned anywhere in the media. And this is just in case people aren't upset enough already about the huge spike in gasoline prices. Mm-hmm. But here's the important fact. The huge increase in gasoline prices in the U.S. as a result of this war, here in Michigan, for example, it's about 60 cents a gallon so far, is nothing but windfall profits for the U.S. oil companies.
Yep.
The U.S. produces essentially all of the oil we need. So losing the Straits of Hormuz does not affect the U.S. production costs for our oil companies at all. But ever since the OPEC oil embargo of the 1970s, our oil companies are able to charge the world oil market price.
Right. Now, remind me, Marty, was it Nixon or Carter who put a windfall profits tax on the oil companies back in the day because of that Arab oil embargo driving up the price of oil?
It was Carter. It was Carter. And actually, that was what I was going to suggest. The latest data I've seen is that the U.S. consumption of gasoline is about 377 million gallons a day. So at 60 cents a gallon, that's a windfall profit over $200 million a day. Wow. So how about a windfall profits tax?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're not going to get one out of this Republican Congress, but I think it's an excellent idea.
No, it's all game they playing.
Yeah, I'm with you. Marty, thank you. Well said. Dale in Hatley, Wisconsin. Hey, Dale, thanks for listening to Civic Media. What's up?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. On these data centers, I don't really know what the objective is of these data centers, but I think it is suspect. What data are they going to collect? Is this an offshoot of what Elon Musk and those boys were doing with all of our Social Security info? Are these data centers going to be used by this administration to collect info on every man, woman, and child? So if anyone says anything negative about this administration, they can be pinpointed for
The answer is yes,
And
Dale, and it's not
also,
are they going to. They already are.
Yeah, and the public and the American public is going to be paying for these data centers because of higher electric costs and water and air degradation. So the public will be paying for surveillance by our own government.
And it turns out that much of the consumption of electricity in the United States by these data centers is because they are doing military projects, like your mass surveillance stuff, like targeting our the girls' school in Iran. And, most Americans are completely unaware of that. I'm going to fill in all the details on that in about 30 minutes on the other side of at the top of the next hour. But it's just wild stuff. It's just wild.
It is. It's illegal, corrupt, everything.
Well, it's the integration of the military into civilian web infrastructure, which should be illegal. It should be that if the military wants to have a facility, they have to have a facility that's a military facility. And the reason I say that is because we just saw an Amazon Web Services Center in the Middle East get bombed because they were providing targeting information to the military in the same place where they're processing your packages. So, Dale, I got to run, but I'll fill you in at the top of the hour. Thanks for the call. Well said. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Defending America from the weapons of mass deception. I'll be right back with you. Free Speech TV needs you, as the old recruiting poster used to go. Free Speech TV, this is genuine patriotism. Loving our country, wanting a country that does better for our people, for the world, for our children and our children's children. Wanting a country that actually cares about climate change and does something about it. Wanting a country that cares about the poor and homeless among us and does something about it. Wanting a country that doesn't just randomly start wars with other countries just so that the president can make more money and gain more political power. Wanting a country where everybody has the right to vote, everybody is a citizen. I mean, this is pretty straightforward stuff. Yeah, I realize it's radical in this day and age, given the Trump administration, driving us down the road to fascism. And it's radical in the context of all the other news media out there. And that's why you only find it here. So please support Free Speech TV, freespeech.org or 877-378-8669. Thank you.
Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. Could your children be drafted to fight in Iran? White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt went on Fox News Sunday and said something that stopped a lot of parents cold. When asked directly whether Trump would reinstate the draft, she didn't say no. She said the president, quote, wisely doesn't remove options off the table, end quote. A draft, she said, quote, is not part of the current plan right now. Right now. That's not a denial, that's a warning. The last time America had a mandatory draft was Vietnam, and more than 58,000 Americans died. Critics immediately lit up social media after her comment. One commentator noted that once the children of congressmen and Ivy League families start getting draft notices, the politics will change overnight. Trump has not ruled out boots on the ground. Every war speech sounds different when you imagine your own child wearing the boots. Trump's war is blowing up our economy. Oil hit $110 a barrel Sunday night. That's 50% higher than before the U.S. and Israel began striking Iran on February 28th. The Strait of Hormuz, through which 1/5 of the world's oil flows every day, has been effectively shut for more than a week. Gas is up 16% since the war started. Diesel is up 22%, natural gas up 17%, and stock futures dropped 1.5% Sunday evening. Investors now expect inflation to hit 4.5% over the next year. That's nearly double what they projected at the start of 2025. Trump called the price spikes a very small price to pay. Right. Tell that to the family filling up the tank or watching their retirement shrink. This is what war costs, and working people in America pay it first. Is Trump losing his biggest bet? Trump built his political brand on one promise. He'd make your life cheaper. That promise is now in serious trouble. The economy shed 92,000 jobs in February when economists expected a gain of 60,000. That's the third time in 5 months that the job market has contracted. His tariffs have produced rising prices and 13 months of manufacturing job losses out of the past 14. Early polling shows only 38% of Americans support the Iran strikes, lower than retrospective support for the Iraq war. The first 100 hours of the war cost an estimated $3.7 billion. Trump told Axios he expects to pick Iran's next leader, while also admitting the worst case, whoever takes over could be just as bad. That's not a strategy. That's a gamble with your money and your kids' lives. Trump threatens Congress unless they suppress the vote. While the country watches oil prices and war news, Trump posted a demand on his Nazi-infested social media site that deserves its own alarm bell. He said he'll refuse to sign any legislation until Republicans pass the Save America Act. What's in it? Mandatory voter ID, proof of citizenship, elimination of almost all mail-in ballots, a ban on transgender athletes, and a ban on gender-affirming care for minors. He's threatening to hold the entire legislative agenda hostage to ram through a bill designed to make it harder for millions of Americans to vote. That isn't governing. It's an attempt to lock in power by locking people out of the ballot box. Trump's own cabinet is buying nuclear bunkers. Here's a story that should chill you to the bone. 2 senior Trump cabinet members have secretly ordered nuclear survival bunkers since the attack on Iran began, according to the Telegraph. The bunker company owner says inquiries have gone up tenfold. One official texted him asking when his bunker would be ready. People running this war are scared enough to buy and private shelters while telling the rest of us not to worry. If the people who started this war are quietly preparing for nuclear fallout, you have to ask what risks they're taking with the rest of us. It appears it's pretty marginal. And that's the way it is Monday, March 9th, 2016. I'm Thom Hartmann.
Share the Thom Hartmann program with your friends. Our podcast, The Hartmann Report, is absolutely free and available wherever fine podcasts are available. And the entire 3-hour podcast is available over at thomhartmann.com. So MAGA Mike and the Republicans want a religious test for people running for public office. They want to know that you are sufficiently Christian to be worthy of being elected. Right. MAGA Mike is one of these 7 mountain evangelicals. There are 7 domains where these dominionists believe that we need to have religion completely take them over. Education, religion, family, business, government, military, arts and entertainment, and the media. Seriously. This is not what Jesus was preaching when he said, give unto Caesar what is Caesar and unto God what is God's. This is the opposite, in fact, of what Jesus was teaching. It's the opposite of Matthew 25, where Jesus said the only way to get to heaven is by feeding the hungry, healing the sick, helping the poor.
Crowdfund like cancer research for children.
This is counter-Christian, anti-Christian, in fact. In fact, I think you could say it is the Antichrist's work. There's a piece about it over at HartmannReport.com. Check it out.
I saw it on the...
It's past the hour. Welcome back. Picking up your calls here. Alfredo in Mountain View, California. Hey, Alfredo, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Thank you for everything you're doing. I'm very frustrated with the Democratic Party in the sense that Chuck Schumer needs to step down. They need to have someone young like AOC or Sheldon Whitehouse or somebody more dynamic just recently they gave the 5 Democrats voted with the Republicans to give Trump absolute power, war powers.
Yeah, that was in the House. And AOC is in the House, not the Senate. But I get your point.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and I'm so frustrated with this. And
those 5 Democrats who voted with the House Republicans, that's not Chuck Schumer's problem. That's Hakeem Jeffries. That's the failure of Hakeem Jeffries to control his caucus. That's what you're looking at.
You know, this would have never happened under Nancy Pelosi's control. So they need to do something about that because that is a problem, I think.
I agree.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tom.
Thanks, Alfredo. Excellent point.
Yeah.
Appreciate your call.
Yeah, bye.
Kenyatta in Los Angeles. Hey, Kenyatta, what's on your mind today?
Anecdote. You'd mentioned earlier, and you mentioned it correctly. I mean, you're a top-notch historian, so I'm not taking issue. I just wanted to kind of give you a nuance on something you said about the selective service system.
Mm-hmm.
It is voluntary, and it's been in place since I was a teenager.
Yeah, it's been voluntary since 1980.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. And I was a teenager, and it was brought to my attention in a very weird way, which I won't get into. But in any event, it's voluntary, but it's de facto compulsory. Let me tell you why. If you apply for any government job in particular, or a job with a government contractor, it will be brought to your attention, not subtly.
Oh, if you haven't registered?
That's right.
Yeah, that makes sense. In fact, I thought there were penalties for failure to register beyond that.
This is it is a de facto draft.
Yeah.
Well, if there's no draft, why do I need to register for it?
Exactly.
Okay. So anyways, that's not my point. And you will pardon me, and you know I'm the eccentric dissident, and I don't have any sense. But you had spoken when you started this hour about black people eating cats, you know, and Trump's tropes and his racist stuff. And so I want to talk about cats for a minute, but I'm going to put down my lunch first, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So I worked for a company known as SAIC. Science Applications International Corporation.
Oh, the defense contractor.
It is the largest in the world, and most people have not heard of it.
Right.
And there's a reason why they haven't. I was a subcontractor for SAIC in San Diego headquarters, and I was in Building X. Now, think about it. And I'm not being funny. I'm not. There's a whole lot I'm not going to say here. Given especially this administration. But I will tell you this. I worked on a project, Tom, and this is pivoting to from the drafting to what you talked about, these bunkers and all this stuff. I worked on a project called CATS, C-A-T-S. CATS was an acronym for Catastrophic Alert Tool Set. This was when my youngest child was born, and that was in 2000. What the Catastrophic Alert Tool Set was about was that the United States has been planning for a mass casualty event. When I say mass casualty, I'm talking hundreds of thousands of people for decades. And what the CAT system was designed to do is that the military, the Pentagon, the White House would immediately know all over the country which bridges were out, which dams were not functioning, where power was out, plans for mass cremations by the thousands. This was real planning that the government has paid for and been involved in for decades.
Wow.
So this is not a matter of if. And when I say mass casualty event, it may be nuclear, it may be non-nuclear. Yeah. The point is that this is something this country's been planning for a long time. It's not a matter of if.
Yeah.
It's a matter of.
But there's a distinction here, and you write a great newsletter on Substack, and I encourage people to subscribe to it. I don't know if you caught Timothy Snyder's. He also writes a great one, the fascism expert. And he published one over the weekend saying that, in his opinion, the entire reason, the sole reason why Trump went along with Netanyahu and invaded Iran was because he wants to provoke a mass casualty event here in the United States that he can use as an excuse to declare a state of emergency and suspend the elections this fall. And Timothy Snyder is no slouch. I'm curious your thoughts on that.
I'm telling you, well, Tim, I love you, baby, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Listen, you know, we have a problem in this country. We have lots of problems, but the biggest one is denial. We just decide that there's things that we just will not acknowledge.
Yeah.
Timothy is dead on.
Yeah.
So let me just say this before I go, Tom. Ironically, from the Catastrophic Alert Toolset project that I was working on, I won't say what aspect, but the safest place, believe it or not, now let's go full circle from the draft thing. You know the safest place to be, particularly in the event of a nuclear war, you know where the safest place is going to be?
No idea.
In the military.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Because
let me say this to you, brother. I sent you something on this because this is a project I've been working on for years, and it just gets so massive because it's so involved technically and so forth. Do you know that if there is a contingency U.S. policy that if the United States comes under some type of nuclear attack and let's say a city is lost, you know, people automatically think, oh, well, you're going to be a parking lot because we're going to just wipe you out. Let me tell you something. There is a government policy, and I sent it to you before. It's been a couple of years ago, and I'll be happy to do it again. There is a contingency that if a American city is hit with a nuclear weapon, that the United States will not retaliate. And the reasons why, and we don't have time to get into that. And they make perfect sense.
Yeah, mutually assured destruction. Yeah, I get it. Kenyatta, I always learn something. Thank you for the call.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, good talking to you. Susan in Inglis, Florida. Hey, Susan, what's on your mind today?
Well, Tom, I recently got in the mail a notice from the United States Census regarding wanting information from randomly selected individuals in my locale. And it says on the information that I got, your response is required by law. But ironically, the addressee doesn't have my name. It just says resident. Mm-hmm. I'm very wary of, giving information out anymore, especially under the Trump administration.
Yeah.
I've become very mistrustful of everything in government.
It's generally a really good idea to respond to census inquiries. I don't know the difference between addressed to resident or addressed to you. I'm not even sure if maybe they're all addressed to resident. You do want to make sure that it's actually the Census Bureau, but it probably is. I know this is not the first call I've gotten about this. So apparently they're doing their, they do a big one every 10 years, but then throughout the individual years they do much smaller ones that are a little more targeted to try to just kind of keep up with it. So I double check however you would do that it's actually real, but I don't think you have to worry about that information. Susan, I got to run, but thank you for the call. It's 44 and a half minutes past the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. Stay with us. It's the Thom Hartmann program, exposing the con in conservative. I'll be right back with you.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's the place where we dare to ask, is Walmart a person? And we dare to say, no, the right-wingers on the court got that one wrong, too. And welcome back. Andrew in Columbus, Ohio. Hey, Andrew. Thanks for listening to WGRN. What's up?
Hey, Tom. Moving on from mass casualty events to a mass activity event, the only thing that's going to stop all this is for all of us to get in the streets. And I am quite serious. I want you and everyone else, elected political leaders, to decide on a date, call for us not to go to work, not to do our regular activities, and get out by the hopefully hundreds of millions of people
March
and shut
28th.
it down. There you go. Let's see how that goes.
Yeah.
And
New Kings 2.
I think
New Kings 3.
Yeah.
No Kings 3.
No Kings 3. But I hope that gets their attention. But I think something where we look like France, the farmers who shut down things when things don't go their way. I think that's the only thing, something that's more than a day, maybe a week, 3 days, just to show them that we have the power and that we can shut all this down when we choose to. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. I agree with you, and I would add to that, if you can put the fear of God, and I'm not talking about threats of violence, I'm talking about threats of political response. If you can put the fear of God into enough Republican legislators, all we have to do is peel off 5 or 6 of them in the House, 3 or 4 of them in the Senate, and to get them to just stop voting with the Republicans and start voting with the Democrats, and everything changes. And there's a big Republican meeting down in Florida today. I don't know which of the Trump properties it's at, but I guarantee you it's at one of them. And I suspect the party is going through a bit of an existential crisis right now. Maria in Philadelphia. Hey, Maria, thanks for watching us on YouTube. What's on your mind today?
Hey, hi there, Tom. So, we're obviously the big topic here is this horrific war with Iran. And, I know, I believe you might have commented on this before, but there's something more, there are stories here in like USA Today and stuff where it was Christian nationalism concerns in the U.S. military came up because the Military Religious Freedom Foundation said it received more than 200 complaints.
Yeah, we had Mikey Weinstein, the founder and president of that organization, on this program last Monday, describing, those, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane because I think you even know about this, like this whole thing about the rapture. I will tell you, and I forget the gentleman's name who picked up the phone before
Mateo.
the screener.
Yeah.
Mateo. Yeah, I talked to him. I'm like, when I was a kid, we used to get in our doors, in our homes, these flyers about the rapture. And I feel like, oh, my God, these people are nuts. And now they're the freaking ones running. Our federal government is run by this Nazi death cult.
Yep.
And we have, and I always tell people, I'm like, our federal government is run by the Manson family, David Koresh, and Jim Jones.
Yeah.
It's a cult.
I cannot dispute that, Maria.
I also was curious. You said something about the woman who calls herself Mueller. She wrote, this was a couple weeks ago. I forget what Allison Gill is her name.
Yeah.
That you talked to her about something.
Yeah, she's Mueller.
I don't know
Mueller,
what
she wrote. Yeah.
Yeah. You said that she like snapped at you for saying something. I'm like, why did she snap at you? I was curious.
It was because I had been criticizing Merrick Garland. She said that during those first 2 years, we shouldn't criticize him for that he was carefully putting things together. I'm not buying it, but that's her story.
No,
Maria, I gotta
I'm
run.
not either.
I gotta run. Thank you. We'll be right back. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. Recently, I did an op-ed and a little rant here about what happens when you raise the top income tax rate on morbidly rich people to 90%, and how, that helps reduce income inequality and funds the government, all kinds of good, positive things. What about corporate taxes? We really need to go back to the 50% top corporate income tax rate that we had under Dwight Eisenhower, for example. The reason why is not on the assumption that we're going to collect all that money, but what it does is it causes corporations to change their behavior, to do things to try to get tax deductions so they don't have to pay that in taxes. And what are the main things they do? They develop new products. They do research and development. They become more competitive. They open up new stores. They pay their employees better. They offer better benefits. All of these things are 100% tax deductible and thus lower their corporate income taxes and help out America. You can read all about it over at HartmannReport.com. 10 minutes before the hour, picking up your calls here. Win in Emden, Maine. Am I saying that right, Win?
You are. Very good. Thank you.
What's up?
You know, I've been watching Trump for a long time, and I've been trying to convince people for the last 10 years that the guy's just obviously sick, and he's got an ego bigger than the moon, probably bigger than the earth. And I see it as, you know, he's got no choice. He has to start a war. If he doesn't start a war, we're going to get control of the legislatures in this country.
I think he thinks that, really, and he also figured if he didn't start a war, we were going to find out that he's been raping 13-year-olds.
Well, that's true too, but on some level, I don't think he cares. But all he cares about is his ego and being able to take over the world. He really thinks he's the smartest guy around.
Yeah.
But he's got an IQ of like 73 or something like that.
It appears.
I mean,
he's not a bright man. He's not a very thoughtful man. Definitely.
No, he's not. But I don't think he's got a choice, and I think he's going to see that if he hasn't already. And it's going to be a war.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. No, it's the cornered rat syndrome. I agree with you.
And he's got the biggest issue he has is the timing of it. He can't start it too soon, and he can't start it too late.
Right. Well, he's
probably between 6 and 8 months from now.
So you're talking about a world war as opposed to a war with Iran.
What kind of war it is?
Yeah.
Nuclear, non-nuclear, world war, or whatever. But
yeah. I'm inclined to agree with Tim Snyder that he attacked Iran because he knows that Iran has proxies in the United States that are going to do a hell of a lot more than throw a little bomb at Gracie Mansion like in New York yesterday. They've got people in the United States who can pull a Tim McVeigh or an Osama bin Laden, a Mullah Omar or whatever his name was, a 9/11 kind of event, and that's what Trump wants. He wants the Reichstag fire. He wants the event that will give him the power to shut down America. Yeah, Win, thank you very much. Dale in Fort Myers, Florida. Hey, Dale, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I was quite amazed about the billionaires and their Armageddon shelters.
Two members of Trump's cabinet are building Armageddon shelters right now. What the hell?
I'm a geologist, and I was an avid watcher of Carl Sagan in the 80s.
As we all were, yeah.
He did a really good couple segments on nuclear winter. And who in the heck, I would love to see the designs of these so-called Armageddon shelters. It almost makes me want to become an Armageddon travel recommender, because the best places to live if we have a nuclear war would be in the South Pacific, like the countries of Fiji, Tonga, Kiribati, New Zealand.
Places that nobody wants to bother fighting for.
Absolutely, and also countries that exist where there's good wind direction.
But I get it.
But more importantly, I would love to see the design of these things, because
some of them are online. There have actually been programs. There was a show about these bunkers that was put together maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I think it might still be on Netflix or Prime or something like that. It was a little documentary. It was fascinating, and the only thing that I've never been able to figure out is how, if they want somebody to live underground for more than 6 months or a year, how are they going to generate the power for that? And unless they're building the bunker right above a pool of oil, if they're building it in the Permian Basin or something, I suppose you could drill your own oil and cook it in a build a little turbine or something. But I just don't get it. But Dale, I got to move along.
More importantly, the irradiated groundwater and irradiated air.
Exactly.
At 40 years underground, I think you would probably go nuts.
Yeah,
Have a good day.
I'm with you. Thank you, Dale. Bill in Vashon Island, Washington. Hey, Bill, what's up?
Hey, Tom.
You know, there's been this movement off and on over the years about people not paying their taxes to fund this madness.
Right.
And here we are once again in the madness. And I haven't heard any talk about it. I was just wondering if you had. And it seems like that's a powerful, powerful thing. But can you get enough people to get on board as a protest?
We've never successfully had a tax protest, at least not in the modern era in America.
Right.
There were, back when I was doing news at WITL back in the 60s, there were some right-wing tax protesters who got arrested. We got visited by the state police and the IRS about that. You know, they didn't want us to report it because they didn't want people to get ideas. But then, you know, in the later 60s, you had anti-war people who were withholding at least the portion of the war from their taxes, the portion of the Pentagon budget. And I don't know if they ever got around to prosecuting those people or recovering that money. I'm guessing they probably did get the money. But it's never happened here, and I doubt it would happen going forward, Bill. I think people are just afraid of the IRS. But, you know, there are other ways to protest. I mean, you know, you can get out in the streets and march 28.
Sure.
You know, show up at the nearby, you know, intersection with a sign every weekend, those kind of things, as well as calling your members of Congress. Bill, thanks for the call. Great question. Great issue. Thank you. On the other side of the break, when you see a data center going up, you think it's like, oh, is this ChatGPT telling me where to find, you know, a nice restaurant? No, it may well be the Pentagon. Stick around. I'll tell you about it.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
You know, we've all gotten so used to living in a country where people are trying to crowdfund, like, cancer research for children. St. Jude's is a wonderful charity, but we're the only developed country in the world that needs, you know, where you have to go to people and beg for money in order to treat children with cancer. Or Shriners, I mean, another great charity, but shouldn't we all be funding children who are born with birth defects and problems like that? We're probably the only country in the world where you can sell your life insurance policy because Social Security doesn't cover your retirement. I mean, it's probably not happening anywhere else in the world. Or reverse mortgage your home because you can't afford it. I mean, this is crazy that we are living in a country where No Kid Hungry, a charity. You can read all about it. There's a whole op-ed I wrote about this over at HartmannReport.com. It's titled America's Sickest Reality Show, Crowdfunding Cancer Care While Billionaires Hoard Billions. Check it out. Only 1 hour to go. Last chance, 877-378-8669 or freespeech.org are the ways that you can support this extraordinary little television network. Also, another thing that you can do to support us, since the more viewers we have, the more donors we will have, which is the better for the budget, which is why, you know, instead of doing other things, Free Speech is focusing a lot of money and effort into marketing and promotion and PR and things like that. But most important is tell your friends. Let everybody you know about Free Speech TV. You know, tell them what's going on here. That we've got this great television network. It's viewer supported. It is, no billionaires, no big corporate sponsors. And please, of course, support us right now. We really need your support. So please call now or go to freespeech.org. Thank you.
Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. Could your children be drafted to fight in Iran? White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt went on Fox News Sunday and said something that stopped a lot of parents cold. When asked directly whether Trump would reinstate the draft, she didn't say no. She said the president, quote, wisely doesn't remove options off the table, end quote. A draft, she said, quote, is not part of the current plan right now. Right now. That's not a denial, that's a warning. The last time America had a mandatory draft was Vietnam, and more than 58,000 Americans died. Critics immediately lit up social media after her comment. One commentator noted that once the children of congressmen and Ivy League families start getting draft notices, the politics will change overnight. Trump has not ruled out boots on the ground. Every war speech sounds different when you imagine your own child wearing the boots. Trump's war is blowing up our economy. Oil hit $110 a barrel Sunday night. That's 50% higher than before the U.S. and Israel began striking Iran on February 28th. The Strait of Hormuz, through which 1/5 of the world's oil flows every day, has been effectively shut for more than a week. Gas is up 16% since the war started. Diesel is up 22%, natural gas up 17%, and stock futures dropped 1.5% Sunday evening. Investors now expect inflation to hit 4.5% over the next year. That's nearly double what they projected at the start of 2025. Trump called the price spikes a very small price to pay. Right. Tell that to the family filling up the tank or watching their retirement shrink. This is what war costs, and working people in America pay it first. Is Trump losing his biggest bet? Trump built his political brand on one promise. He'd make your life cheaper. That promise is now in serious trouble. The economy shed 92,000 jobs in February when economists expected a gain of 60,000. That's the third time in 5 months that the job market has contracted. His tariffs have produced rising prices and 13 months of manufacturing job losses out of the past 14. Early polling shows only 38% of Americans support the Iran strikes, lower than retrospective support for the Iraq war. The first 100 hours of the war cost an estimated $3.7 billion. Trump told Axios he expects to pick Iran's next leader, while also admitting the worst case, whoever takes over could be just as bad. That's not a strategy. That's a gamble with your money and your kids' lives. Trump threatens Congress unless they suppress the vote. While the country watches oil prices and war news, Trump posted a demand on his Nazi-infested social media site that deserves its own alarm bell. He said he'll refuse to sign any legislation until Republicans pass the Save America Act. What's in it? Mandatory voter ID, proof of citizenship, elimination of almost all mail-in ballots, a ban on transgender athletes, and a ban on gender-affirming care for minors. He's threatening to hold the entire legislative agenda hostage to ram through a bill designed to make it harder for millions of Americans to vote. That isn't governing. It's an attempt to lock in power by locking people out of the ballot box. Trump's own cabinet is buying nuclear bunkers. Here's a story that should chill you to the bone. 2 senior Trump cabinet members have secretly ordered nuclear survival bunkers since the attack on Iran began, according to the Telegraph. The bunker company owner says inquiries have gone up tenfold. One official texted him asking when his bunker would be ready. People running this war are scared enough to buy and private shelters while telling the rest of us not to worry. If the people who started this war are quietly preparing for nuclear fallout, you have to ask what risks they're taking with the rest of us. It appears it's pretty marginal. And that's the way it is Monday, March 9th, 2016. I'm Thom Hartmann.
is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome to the third hour of our program. This is interesting. On March 1st, was that 9 days ago, roughly, Iranian drones hit 3 Amazon data centers, 2 in the UAE and 1 in Bahrain, if these reports are accurate. These are not military bases. They are not associated with military bases. These are, big kind of office building type structures, or, well, they're data centers. They're full of servers. And when they were struck, financial systems all across the Gulf suddenly went dark, as did many other services around the world. In fact, some of the AI services were interrupted. And some Amazon services were apparently interrupted. And Amazon Web Services, which is one of the largest providers of internet, what would you call it, tools, capability in the world, Amazon Web Services told their customers to migrate their data to other parts of the world. It turns out that the reason why Iran targeted Amazon in Bahrain and the UAE was because their servers were providing the U.S. military with AI capability. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. A single ChatGPT query, if you go into ChatGPT and you say, what's the best restaurant in Portland where I can find, vegan food? In a couple of seconds, you'll get an answer. And that typical ChatGPT query takes about 0.3 watt hours of energy. That's 0.3 of a watt. Not even 1 watt. Right? The old incandescent light bulbs, they were 60 watts. So you could do, 180, about 200 queries and use the same amount of electricity as one light bulb. So it's not a lot of power. People are like, I published a piece over on Daily Kos this morning, and there's a picture that Louise did using an AI product. And some wag comes on and goes, you shouldn't have Louise make these pictures with AI. It uses so much resources. Well, it turns out most of the resources that are being used by AI are for our military. I mean, this is pretty amazing. This is the Dre dossier over on Substack, asking, so why is Amazon building a campus in Indiana that will consume 2.5 gigawatts of electricity, roughly equivalent to powering half the homes in the entire state? Why is Meta planning a facility in Louisiana drawing 5 gigawatts? That's 5 billion watts. When a ChatGPT query is 0.3 of a watt, right? Why are they doing this in New York City? Why is OpenAI's Stargate facility in Abilene, Texas already running at 200 megawatts and scaling toward 1.2 gigawatts? And then Dre Dossier writes, this only makes sense when you understand who the actual customer is. The military AI market is growing from $9.2 billion in 2023 to nearly $39 billion by 2028, a 33% annual growth rate. The Pentagon just awarded a $9 billion contract in 2020 to AWS, Google, Microsoft, and Oracle. And the Pentagon has also announced plans to build AI data centers on 4 military bases. Now, this is where it gets interesting. They write, when you see a gigawatt data center going up in rural America and the company won't tell your mayor what it's for, you are allowed to ask the question. I mean, maybe it's the training for the next generation of consumer AI, or maybe it's training the system that just helps select targets in Iran. The point is you don't know, and nobody is legally required to tell you. Now, here's where it gets totally wild. The Geneva Conventions, they were ratified in 1949, updated in 1977. And the additional protocols from 1977 include one called Article 52, parenthesis 2. This is of additional protocol number 1. And it notes that once a civilian object becomes a lawful military target, a civilian object becomes a lawful military target the moment it makes a, quote, effective contribution to military action. So, in other words, the minute that the Pentagon starts running their programs on Amazon's AWS data servers in Bahrain and the UAE, those servers, even though they have, your order for, a new spring jacket from Amazon, even though it's got that on it, that server has now become a military target. And Article 58 of the same protocol requires parties to the conflict to keep military assets away from civilian populations and not embed military operations inside civilian infrastructure. And we are doing the exact opposite. We've got, through Palantir, through JWCC, through AWS, we have these military operations being embedded in our data centers all over the country and all over the world. Now, the Red Cross has formally said, let's do something about this. The UN Security Council unanimously passed a resolution 2573 condemning attacks on civilian infrastructure, but even if it has military application, but none of it is binding. This is, I mentioned earlier the whole battle between Anthropic and the Pentagon, where Anthropic, which makes Claude, the AI product, one of the better ones, just refused to go along with the military contract that required them to do targeting for autonomous weapons. In other words, weapons that kill people without a human being being involved, without a human being being in the chain of command or in the decision-making structure. And they note, the Pentagon designated Anthropic a supply chain risk to national security, which is usually a label that we put on Chinese companies. That was February 27th. On February 28th, we and Netanyahu, Israel, launched Operation Epstein Fury against Iran. And the day after that, the drones hit the Amazon facilities in Bahrain and the UAE. And those facilities were apparently running Anthropic's military AI at that time. So it's all getting very weird. Now, meanwhile, in Hermantown, Minnesota, elected officials signed non-disclosure agreements before they were even allowed to learn what was going to be built on 200 acres of local land. Residents couldn't find out what company was behind it. It turns out it was Google. Similarly, in Ana County, New Mexico, predominantly Latino community of 15,000 people, they discovered their new data project was part of the Stargate project, OpenAI and Oracle's $500 billion joint venture. Again, Pentagon contracts. The fix is pretty straightforward. We just need Congress to pass a law that says that military infrastructure cannot coexist with civilian infrastructure. If the military wants to have AI, they can build their own damn data centers. Or if an AI company wants to become a military contractor, a defense contractor, let them officially announce it and let all of their data centers become military targets and be protected by our military. I mean, let's put a wall of separation, to paraphrase James Madison about religion. Let's put a wall of separation between military and civilian AI operations. It seems like a reasonable idea to me. What say you? It's just about 15 minutes past the hour. I'll pick up your calls on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
We'll be right back. 15 minutes past the hour. Stick around. And welcome back. Rich, whoops. Click the right button there. Rich in Brookhaven, New York. Hey, Rich, what's on your mind today?
Well, nice talking to you. I am going to Cuba tomorrow with my youngest son, And I have very mixed emotions because I feel I was there like 2 years ago, and I was very impressed. I mean, it's not perfect. No place is on this planet, but they have national health, they have daycare, they have child care. The people use a ration book to get their food, but it's all healthy. And when you see the poorest people, they're not obese because they eat healthy. People take their personal safety for granted. The tour we were on, I got to drive a 53 Chevy convertible, around the block.
Yeah.
So
as long as you don't criticize the government, it's a great place. Louise and I have been there too. We spent a week there back in March of.
Yeah.
It was during the Obama administration. I forget which year, but and it was really nice. It was a very nice trip. But and we learned a lot, and we were very impressed. But now we've got this island under embargo, and they're experiencing now severe food and medicine and water and energy shortages. Trump, it looks like, is committed to just bringing these people to their knees.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I was about to say the downsides, like they pay half the people to spy on the other half, and if you vote election, it's communist and communist. But the thing is this, is that I speak some Spanish. So at night, you'd wander around, find a place to eat in Old Havana and like that, very nice, a lot of Canadian places or whatever you want. And the thing was it didn't seem to me evident that the kind of fear and paranoia that you would probably see in a place like Russia. In other words, you could talk to ordinary people, strike up a conversation, and people would say, I remember back in the 50s that if you were black, no matter how intelligent or skilled you were, you could not get a job anywhere.
Yeah.
If you were white, it would be like South Africa. You could get a job. You didn't have to worry about being qualified. If you were Hispanic, you were in the middle.
It was that way in the United States in the 50s.
Oh, you're right. But I'm just saying that was changed as far as that goes. Yeah. And the idea of, I think one of the reasons why the government makes it so difficult to travel to Cuba is that they don't want to see that a little country like Cuba can have infant mortality and maternal mortality the same as the United States with a lot less.
Yeah.
Where you see people like, I remember we grew up back like in the Kennedy days and whatever, I'm an old timer, but I remember that, people would be out on the streets and watching their kids play soccer or baseball or whatever. They're watching each other's kids or playing musical instruments, not for money, but because they have the skill to do it and they enjoy it. So I think the government in America, Republican or Democrat, is afraid of people, was afraid of people going down to Cuba.
I agree.
And seeing,
although the Obama administration was not. They encouraged it, which is why we went. And Carter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I was going to say, I'm feeling sorrowful about the losses, but like I say, it's lasted for 60 years, so we'll see.
Rich, when you get back, will you give us a shout and let us know how it went?
I will do that. You have a great show.
Great. Thank you very much, Rich. Look forward to talking to you when you return.
Okay.
Thank you for watching us there in Brookhaven, New York. We'll be right back. It's 19 minutes past the hour. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. Way back in 1964, when Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the Republicans started this rant about how the election of 1960, Jock Kennedy stole that election, and there's voter fraud in America. And it became a thing. They started this thing called Operation Eagle Eye. William Rehnquist was running it in Arizona, trying to intimidate Hispanics and African Americans into not voting, essentially. They have now used this claim that non-citizens are voting, this voter fraud claim, in virtually every red state to make it harder to vote, to purge people off the voting rolls, to make people's votes not counted with their exact signature matches. It's a scam. It's a grift that they've been running for 60 years, and the American media won't call them out on it. There's a whole piece about it called Trump and the GOP's Big Lie 2.0 over at HartmannReport.com. Please check it out. You'll find it fascinating. Welcome back. 21 minutes past the hour. I was just hearing silence there. I don't know what happened. Anyway, picking up your calls here. Gabe in Placerville, California. Hey, Gabe, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. How you doing? Thanks for taking my call. Hey, I agree with you wholeheartedly that it's Netanyahu who's suckered Trump into this war. But
I think Putin had something to do with it, too, because he's the major beneficiary of this thing.
Exactly. He's the head of the snake, and Russia is the only real country who's benefiting. And one of the main ways why is through the LNG. Europe is crucially dependent on that LNG that is coming from Qatar and through the Straits of Hormuz, which is now cut off. They were planning on zeroing out the LNG that they were going to get from Russia by next year. Now they're doing it about face.
Yeah.
When that happens, Putin's just got him where he wants him, which means that he's going to say, hey, you're going to stop sending weapons to Ukraine, and you're going to put pressure on them to come to the table and give me what I want and try to end this war in terms of in his favor. So, yeah, I think Putin. I mean, you can call him a conspiracy theorist on this, but I think he's the one who's kind of.
I agree with your analysis, Gabe. And Putin is winning in a whole bunch of different levels. Number one. Putin was being criticized for attacking Ukraine when they had never attacked him. Well, we just attacked Iran when they never attacked us, when they hadn't attacked us. So, this is not self-defense. This is a war of choice. You could say the same thing about Venezuela, but it's a little harder to make that argument, around a single person being basically snatched out of the country. It's an easy comparison to say, well, the United States is doing in Iran what we did in Ukraine, so there's nothing wrong with what we did, number one. Number two, the price of oil is over $100 a barrel, which is just delighting Putin because he's the principal source of oil and natural gas for Eastern Europe and it was for all of Europe. And, then they started buying it through the Middle East, and now that's cut off. And now, India and China are having to buy their oil and their natural gas from Russia. So, Putin's making out like a bandit here.
Yeah, he's got all these new customers now. From it.
Yep.
And, all the price of oil going up is going right into his coffers. That he's using it to spend on the war in Ukraine. So, he's the one who's coming up.
And he's cranking up the attacks on Ukraine. And it's not even getting covered here in the United States because we're all talking about the war in Iran. It wouldn't surprise me if Putin was the one who told Trump to do this. Although, clearly this thing has Netanyahu's fingerprints all over it. But, Gabe, thank you for the call. Spot on. I completely agree. Michael in Bronx, New York. Hey, Michael, what's up?
Hey, Tom, good buddy. A lot of people may be rejoicing in the outing of Kristi Noem, even going as far as the jingle that sounds identical to the Wizard of Oz. Ding dong, wicked gnome, wicked gnome, the Kristi Noem. Ding dong, the wicked gnome is gone.
Okay.
But it goes deeper than that because I want everyone that's listening, heed these words. If you ever think of working for Donald Trump, get that out your head. If you work for him and you don't do what he wants, you're fired.
It's the Icarus syndrome. You fly too close to the sun, your wings melt off.
Yeah, and if you do what he tells you to do, he'll still fire you when the you-know-what hits the fan. He's trying to save his own butt.
Yeah.
He won't even hesitate to throw you under the bus or even turn you into to the local authorities for prosecution.
Yep.
So people got to really, heed these words. The man cannot be trusted. Yeah. And while I was on hold, I just remembered the other thing regarding Pam Bondi. Mm-hmm. I want to talk on people in Congress, our Democrats, and some of the Republicans that are now taking a stand. And Pam Bondi, after taking an oath, you give her a question, and then she wants to filibuster and all that. You say not just reclaiming your time, but hold her in contempt. I mean, what she filibusters, in my opinion, sounds like she's committing perjury. And then people got to remember, she was Trump's personal lawyer for the longest time.
Right.
Makes you wonder if all these Epstein files have been hidden all this time, and it'd be no wonder. It would be no wonder that Trump decided to make her attorney general, although she won't be attorney general for the people, but continuing being personal attorney and catering to Trump.
Well, and she took a $25,000 bribe from Trump to drop Florida's investigation into Trump University. And she was, as I recall, a registered lobbyist or agent for one of the foreign countries. Was it Turkey? I don't remember which country it was. It might have been one of the Middle Eastern countries. But I mean, you know, this woman is a hustler. And she spent 8 years as the Attorney General of Florida, as the chief law enforcement officer of the state of Florida, looking the other way and ignoring Jeffrey Epstein. And of course, Donald Trump's association with him. So, you know.
And the audacity to say to the Congress people, I'm not answering your questions.
Yeah.
How dare
she was
you
in contempt.
about thinking she's running
She's
the
clearly
show?
in contempt.
No.
The problem is that in order to hold somebody in contempt requires a majority vote of the committee, and the Republicans are just too spineless, too weak, too cowardly to do that. So, thanks a lot, Michael. 27 minutes past the hour.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
So now in New York City, some people threw a homemade bomb at Gracie Mansion, and now they're saying they were inspired by ISIS. Here we go. Where else are you going to get this kind of commentary? Where else are you going to get this kind of analysis of the news? Where else are you going to find somebody or any program, and it's not just mine here on this network, who works so hard to put together the what's really going on, the truth? Where else can you find that? Basically nowhere. And it's here on Free Speech TV because you helped make it happen. Your contributions brought this network into being, and your contributions have kept this network going. And your contributions are what makes the difference. This is such an important little television network. We are doing such great work here. And it's really worthy of your support, particularly your monthly support. You're becoming a sustaining donor, a regular monthly donor, big deal, because it helps them budget. It helps them know what kind of money is coming in. So please, right now, go to freespeech.org or call 877-378-8669. Thank you.
Good morning. This is the Commonwealth Report, news for the public, not the powerful. Could your children be drafted to fight in Iran? White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt went on Fox News Sunday and said something that stopped a lot of parents cold. When asked directly whether Trump would reinstate the draft, she didn't say no. She said the president, quote, wisely doesn't remove options off the table, end quote. A draft, she said, quote, is not part of the current plan right now. Right now. That's not a denial, that's a warning. The last time America had a mandatory draft was Vietnam, and more than 58,000 Americans died. Critics immediately lit up social media after her comment. One commentator noted that once the children of congressmen and Ivy League families start getting draft notices, the politics will change overnight. Trump has not ruled out boots on the ground. Every war speech sounds different when you imagine your own child wearing the boots. Trump's war is blowing up our economy. Oil hit $110 a barrel Sunday night. That's 50% higher than before the U.S. and Israel began striking Iran on February 28th. The Strait of Hormuz, through which 1/5 of the world's oil flows every day, has been effectively shut for more than a week. Gas is up 16% since the war started. Diesel is up 22%, natural gas up 17%, and stock futures dropped 1.5% Sunday evening. Investors now expect inflation to hit 4.5% over the next year. That's nearly double what they projected at the start of 2025. Trump called the price spikes a very small price to pay. Right. Tell that to the family filling up the tank or watching their retirement shrink. This is what war costs. and working people in America pay it first. Is Trump losing his biggest bet? Trump built his political brand on one promise. He'd make your life cheaper. That promise is now in serious trouble. The economy shed 92,000 jobs in February when economists expected a gain of 60,000. That's the third time in 5 months that the job market has contracted. His tariffs have produced rising prices and 13 months of manufacturing job losses out of the past 14. Early polling shows only 38% of Americans support the Iran strikes, lower than retrospective support for the Iraq war. The first 100 hours of the war cost an estimated $3.7 billion. Trump told Axios he expects to pick Iran's next leader, while also admitting the worst case, whoever takes over could be just as bad. That's not a strategy. That's a gamble with your money and your kids' lives. Trump threatens Congress unless they suppress the vote. While the country watches oil prices and war news, Trump posted a demand on his Nazi-infested social media site that deserves its own alarm bell. He said he'll refuse to sign any legislation until Republicans pass the Save America Act. What's in it? Mandatory voter ID, proof of citizenship, elimination of almost all mail-in ballots, a ban on transgender athletes, and a ban on gender-affirming care for minors. He's threatening to hold the entire legislative agenda hostage to ram through a bill designed to make it harder for millions of Americans to vote. That isn't governing. It's an attempt to lock in power by locking people out of the ballot box. Trump's own cabinet is buying nuclear bunkers. Here's a story that should chill you to the bone. 2 senior Trump cabinet members have secretly ordered nuclear survival bunkers since the attack on Iran began, according to the Telegraph. The bunker company owner says inquiries have gone up tenfold. One official texted him asking when his bunker would be ready. People running this war are scared enough to buy and private shelters while telling the rest of us not to worry. If the people who started this war are quietly preparing for nuclear fallout, you have to ask what risks they're taking with the rest of us. It appears it's pretty marginal. And that's the way it is Monday, March 9th, 2016. I'm Thom Hartmann.
Help support Progressive Radio. If you're listening to us on a commercial station, call their advertisers and let them know you're listening. If you're listening to us on Pacifica or one of our many nonprofit stations, please support them when they do their fundraising drives. Thanks for supporting Progressive Talk Radio and tag you're it. Way back in 1964, when Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the Republicans started this rant about how the election of 1960, Jock Kennedy stole that election, and there's voter fraud in America. And it became a thing. They started this thing called Operation Eagle Eye. William Rehnquist was running it in Arizona, trying to intimidate Hispanics and African Americans into not voting, essentially. They have now used this claim that non-citizens are voting, this voter fraud claim, in virtually every red state to make it harder to vote, to purge people off the voting rolls, to make people's votes not counted with their exact signature matches. It's a scam. It's a grift that they've been running for 60 years, and the American media won't call them out on it. There's a whole piece about it called Trump and the GOP's Big Lie 2.0 over at HartmannReport.com. Please check it out. You'll find it fascinating. 5 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. Picking up your calls here. Leslie in Chico, California. Hey, Leslie, what's up?
Yes, good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I have 2 quick things. I watched a special on MS Now this weekend on the Veterans Administration. And one of the things that they covered was the fact that, and I refer to him as the Cheeto, the Cheeto comes out and said we should honor all our service members for their service. But that actually is not the truth. The Veterans Administration has been cut drastically, and my husband passed away recently, and I was advised to go to the Veterans Administration, which I did. And the woman there was extremely embarrassed, but she basically informed me, even though he had served, I was not eligible for any benefits, nothing. And the second thing is, I watched the movie Nuremberg this weekend.
Yeah.
It was extremely excellent.
Is it still in the theaters, Leslie?
Pardon?
Is it still in the theaters, or did it just pop up on demand on TV?
Well, if I can mention it,
Sure.
it premiered on Netflix on Saturday night.
Ah, okay, because you're the second person who's mentioned that to me, and I didn't know why. Because Louise and I saw it in the theater here, a month or two ago. But that's great. I'm glad to hear that. Back to what you were saying. Forgive the interruption, please.
No problem. The thing that I found interesting, and I did some follow-up research on it, is the psychiatrist that interviewed all of the Nazis. He wrote a book called 22 Cells in Nuremberg.
It was published in the 40s.
He basically would not refer to them as monsters, but he referred to them as extremely evil with no conscience. And the thing that struck me when I did the research, at the end of the movie, it shows him going on a radio program, and what he's trying to do on the radio program is warn the people of America that this can happen here too. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing now. And unfortunately, they ridiculed him for coming out with that kind of a statement. He committed suicide shortly thereafter.
That was also the message of Milton Mayer's book, They Thought They Were Free. The last chapter of They Thought They Were Free was him talking with one of these Germans and saying, how could you have prevented this? And they're basically saying, there's no way to prevent this. It's other than knowing what's going to happen, and we did not know what was going to happen.
No, but as I said, the frightening part of it for me was that's exactly what we're going through now.
Yeah, I agree.
Basically.
I agree.
I mean, the people running our government, I would refer to them as monsters, and they do not have any conscience.
Yep. I do refer to them as monsters. I did today in my op-ed, and I stand by it. These people are psychopaths. And most monsters are psychopaths. I mean, the Charles Manson, the Jim Joneses of history, they're clearly psychopaths. And there's no doubt in my mind that Trump and many of the people around him are also psychopaths. And I realize, how, the APA could jump all over me, although I'm not a member, for putting on my psychotherapist hat and diagnosing somebody who I've never met. Actually, I met Donald Trump once, but nonetheless, diagnosing somebody who's not here to be diagnosed. But with the public figures, you know so much about them that it's not that difficult to diagnose them, frankly, number one. And number two, his niece, who does know him well and is a licensed clinical psychologist, says he's a psychopath. Mary. So I'm willing to take Mary's word for it. Leslie, thank you. It was a great call. Thank you so much. Dave in Hoffman Estates, Illinois. Hey, Dave, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, at the beginning, I got a correction for you. At the beginning of the show, on that selective service thing, you had the month and the date correct. It's this year. It's 2026, not 2025, where they're going to automatically...
That it goes into effect, right. But the law was first proposed in 2025 and then ultimately was passed. It got shot. It was proposed by a Democrat, actually. And then it got shot down from the original ND, whatever it is, National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA.
Yeah, well,
and then
from the provision of fiscal year 2026.
Right.
NDA.
Right.
So,
okay. Well, if I misspoke or I had it wrong, my apologies, Dave.
Well, you had the month and the date right, but
okay.
Because right now there's about 40 states that automatically will register. And from renewing.
I'm surprised you're the first person who's called all day to talk about the draft, because it looks like they're getting ready to draft young men and maybe women. I doubt it, but we'll see.
Well, I hope Barron did. I often wonder, did he ever sign for a register to draft?
I'm guessing he registered. I mean, they're following.
Well, my thought though, if Trump should produce his registration card, and just like he did with President Biden about producing that birth certificate.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I'm with you. You mean Obama? Yeah, I'm with you. Dave, thank you. Well said. Steve in Bridgeport, Vermont. Hey, Steve, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I'm a postal worker, and I have some information about the census still going out.
Okay.
I, as a matter of fact, just delivered one.
Okay.
They do a mass mailing every 10 years, and then they do a periodic pick an address and put out a survey. They are current resident because they don't know if you still reside there. And if you remember, the census is anonymous. It's just a count of the people in the country.
Oh, that's right.
So
Thank you for reminding me of that, Steve. So we should this should all reassure the woman who called in earlier.
Right, and you've had several calls in the last 2 weeks about this, and that's why I prompted me to call.
Yeah.
Because I deliver them all the time.
Yeah.
It's nothing nefarious. It's just them doing their job.
Right.
And I've seen it under Democratic presidents and Republican presidents. So
Right, and-
it has nothing to do with the administration.
And the people who are most likely to be spooked by this, minorities, racial minorities, religious minorities, poor people, are the people who it's most important to fill them out, because we base the amount of federal funds that are available to, and in some cases state funds that are available to local jurisdictions based on the census. So, fill out your census form. Yeah, Steve, thank you. That was brilliant. Thank you. Tom in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Hey, Tom, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, I was just wondering about these doomsday bunkers and underground cities. If they build these underground cities, what kind of government do you think they're going to have? Democracy? Well, they hate the one they have here. And if they did, I don't think their egos would let them do it. Like, let's say Mark Cuban wins and becomes president. I don't think Elon Musk would be too happy with that. Do it by money? Well, what is money worth in a underground city?
I think they would create little kingdoms.
Yeah, well, then you need a force to hold that together. So I hope you have a really big underground city, because you're going to have to bring a whole bunch of people down there with you to help you keep your kingdom from everybody else.
Yeah. Years ago, Daniel Quinn, who I used to know, he's been on this program. He passed away a while ago. But he wrote a book called Ishmael. It's a novel, actually, but it's one of the most thought-provoking books I've ever read in my whole entire life. And in that novel, he lays out his hypothesis that modern-day civilization and the greed and hierarchy that is associated with modern-day civilization was a direct result of the agricultural revolution. And what made it possible by the agricultural revolution was that prior to the agricultural revolution, during the hunting and gathering times, a small group of people would do most of the hunting, a larger group would do a lot of gathering, but basically everybody was involved in bringing the food in or processing the food, and everybody had enough to eat. And if there wasn't enough to eat, the want was shared just like the prosperity. When the agricultural revolution happened, though, we started producing huge surpluses of food in the summer and fall that would be used to keep us, to hold us through the winter. And whoever was able to lock up that food ended up being able to declare themselves the king, because they controlled the thing that was life or death, food. And locking up the food became the key to everything. And that money is simply a stand-in for food. It's what we use to buy food. It's what we, and food, of course, money and food being kind of stand-ins for the other necessities of life, shelter and heat and clothing and stuff like that. And so, his argument was that this whole modern era came because somebody had the power to lock up the food. And in these bunkers, whoever owns the bunker has locked up the food, right? They know where the food is, and they've got the key to the door. So I would say that it's a virtual certainty that if any of these little underground cities or bunker places turn into their own little cultures, that they will be kingdoms. They will be post-agricultural society. We locked up the food, we're in charge kind of environments. And by the way, if you're looking for a good read, pick up Ishmael by Daniel Quinn. It's brilliant. Tom, I got to run, but thanks for the call. Great topic. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Fair and only slightly unbalanced. I'll be right back with more of your calls. 45 minutes past the hour. And welcome back. James in Clinton Township, Michigan. Hey, James, what's up?
Oh, hey, Tom. Glad you took my call. First of all, I want to say real quick, we talked about billboard advertisements before. I've been watching you for 2 years now. I stumbled upon your program, and I've been watching every day since. So, billboard advertisements, I want to see more Thom Hartmann program billboards.
Fine
What's
idea.
the problem with that?
Fine idea, James.
Let's start spreading those around.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we don't have the resources to do that. I mean, this program runs on a shoestring.
I'll buy one and pull one up. You tell me where to put it up.
All righty.
Okay, but the thing I want to talk about is this theory that Trump is covering up the Epstein files by starting this war in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
And my problem is with all this is that I don't think his cult followers would turn against him if they found out that he was molesting 13-year-old girls back in the 90s. I think he could get past that.
Oh, two different juries of his peers found him essentially guilty. I realize it's a different word in civil cases, but guilty of raping E. Jane Carroll. And his followers, his Christian followers,
Right.
his moral majority, they said, "Oh, that's cool. He just assaulted her sexually. That's all right with us."
Well, that's what I'm getting at, Tom. I think that even his cult members
they'll just shrug.
They would be okay with him because they'll say, "Oh, it was back in the 90s." When he molested
Boys will be
13-year-old
boys,
girls.
right? He was a young guy, or some BS
Right.
like that. Yeah, no,
Well, here's the problem. Here's the thing. Here's what I'm focusing on, and it's a minute thing, but I think it's bigger than everyone thinks. The blowing Bubba story. Was it Bill Clinton? Was it this or that person?
Yeah.
You know what I think it was? I think Bubba was a dog. That would be the only thing I
God
could
forbid.
think
Okay,
of.
you
for him to cause
just
World War
activated
III
my gag reflex here, James. James, I gotta.
I mean, for him to start World War III, it would have to be more than him molesting 13-year-old girls. That's my point.
Number one, I don't
well,
entirely agree because I think that people do draw a line
Tom.
someplace.
Tom, listen to me. Listen for a second. If they will not disclose all the information we want, then we can speculate all we want.
I get that, but I
we
think
can
that
speculate all we want.
No, I get that. I think that he attacked Iran because he thought that was going to improve his poll numbers. Just like George W. Bush told Mickey Herskowitz, his biographer, that if he became president, he was going to invade Iraq because that would get him a second term of his presidency. It would make him popular.
Well,
and it wasn't the invasion of Iraq that made Bush popular. It was the attack on the United States at 9/11. And that's why that's why I think that a large part of why Donald Trump attacked Iran was because he hopes that they will attack us. I think Tim Snyder is absolutely right. Thanks a lot for the call. It's 10 minutes before the hour. I'll be back with more of your calls in just a minute. Stay with us. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. Welcome back. 10 minutes before the hour. Picking up your calls here. Alan in Winterport, Maine. Hey, Alan, what's on your mind today?
Oh, thank God for Thom Hartmann and your books and your just wisdom and.
Well, thank you, and thanks for watching us on Substack Live.
Yeah, sure, and I will. I'll contribute to billboards too to publicize you. I'm calling because it's a story I read. I don't recall the journalist or where it was about how fragile these Gulf states are in terms of you just would knock out a desalination plant and all of the workers, Palestinians or whoever they are working, doing the grunt work.
Water and food are their big critical
to
potential weaknesses.
Yes, but the other thing he pointed out was the financial weakness that these petrodollars are being recycled. We know the Paramount deal and all the stuff that Trump's sons and Kushner have been involved with. Recycling that money is what's propping up our economy. It's what's been propping up the S&P and the data centers and all that. That the money that they're getting from the petrodollars recycling, they've got to find alternatives when they run out of oil. So they have these sovereign wealth funds.
Sure.
And if the economy is disrupted in there, it's not just the oil shock, but that recycling is not going to happen, and it's going to devastate our economy, probably the European economy, maybe the Asian economy as well. They're all getting these petrodollars.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I think that's an excellent point, Alan. And they've been using those petrodollars to buy influence too. Prince Talaweed used to own the Saudi prince used to own 7% of Fox News. He sold it, a little while ago, but more recently. And now this acquisition of CBS and now the upcoming acquisition of CNN by the Ellison family is also being partially funded by the Saudis, or maybe the Emiratis, but out of the Middle East. So, yeah, I think that's a big deal. Alan, thank you for calling and pointing that out. It's a good one.
Beyond the influence, it's also the recycling is propping up the stock market.
Yep. Amen. Thank you. Tammy in Coconut Creek, Florida. Hey, Tammy, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I just called to say that sadly we have become the United States of AIPAC. And I think if you look back to 1967 when Israel bombed the USS Liberty, I mean, that's a good starting point for when they have taken over our foreign policy. Colonel Wilkerson made a comment on Ralph Nader's podcast that Rumsfeld famously said, Mossad, I don't run this place, Mossad does. And we know it's gotten worse since then.
I didn't know Rumsfeld had ever said that. That's wild.
Oh, Wilkerson said it, yeah, and the last time he was on the Nader podcast. So, I mean, you could find it
Wilkinson's been on this program, too. He's a credible source.
Oh, he's amazing. But it's just very sad because, Trump reported to Netanyahu. He didn't go to Congress, and Rubio knows better. I'm in Florida. Rubio knows the protocol. He knows what to do. There's a really good book out about article from the Prospect about Rubio. I mean, his first Senate campaign was funded by narco-terrorists. It was funded by drug money.
Yeah.
So there's another side to Rubio. He tries to play this squeaky clean guy.
He's not.
But we all know he's not. And they just, they don't feel that they have to report to Congress. This is just sickening. And like you said before, there's going to be boots on the ground. And George Galloway has been talking a lot about damage, and we're not getting these reports.
Yeah, no, I get it all, Tammy. I get excellent points. Thank you. Jolene in Marquette, Michigan. Hey, Jolene, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. I just found you today, and I'm delighted.
Oh, well, thank you.
First, I have a question. I've been writing to the CNN, MS Now, and no one answers me. I think that we need extreme tax reform to get control of these billionaires.
Yeah, we need to reverse the Reagan, Bush, and Trump tax cuts as a starting point.
Yes, and that's what I'm asking about. Why isn't anyone talking about that?
Oh, Bernie's been talking about it forever. And Elizabeth Warren, Sheldon Whitehouse. I mean, there's a bunch of Democrats in Congress, in both the House and the Senate, AOC, who have all been talking about that.
Okay. Well, I just would like it. I would like to hear more about it, and I haven't. And I thought I'm going to call him and ask him.
Okay. Well, I think it'll happen if we can get a solid Democratic majority back in Congress. In 2.5 years, 3.5 years. I think it'll happen. Jolene, thank you for the call, and I hope you call again in the future. Thank you so much. Debbie in Wheeling, Illinois. Hey, Debbie, what's up?
You were talking earlier. Hi, Tom. I love your show, by the way.
Thank you.
I have a concern. You were talking about monsters and the Nazis and, the people currently that we have running things that are a little off. Has anybody mentioned to you, I have heard people since this war started blaming individual, like picking on the Jewish people of America because a lot of them do support Israel.
I'm not willing to call anybody a monster based on their ethnicity or their religion or anything like that. I'm definitely not going to go there. Thanks so much for being with us today, and thank you for being active out there. Remember, don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires all of us, and that includes you. So get out there, get active, tag, you're it. Have a great afternoon. Be good to yourself and the people around you. Stay safe, and I'll catch up with you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
We say fight back!
As they say, the clock is ticking down or counting down to the end of the pledge drive. And if you have not yet availed yourself of an opportunity to become a Free Speech TV subscriber, member, donor, here's your chance. This is such an important time in the history of this country. It's such a critical time in the history of Free Speech TV. We really need your support. A very small portion of it comes to this program, keeps us going. A larger portion of it keeps the entire network running, and that's the key to the whole thing. Without that network, we've got no carriage, no platform for our program and other people's programs. It's just so important that we keep this network going, and it only happens if you or people like you call now and make a contribution, or go to freespeech.org and make that donation. And please consider a monthly donation. Those are the very most important. Thank you so much.